watched the Jacoby's piece on Elon Musk's Twitter takeover the other night. It is totally true. It is a combination. On one hand, it is Taylor Swift, not just Taylor Swift, but Taylor Swift, and unbelievable misinformation. I mean, it is flooded. The zone, terrible, it's such an overused expression, is so flooded with misinformation that you really don't know what to trust. So we want to know what and by the way, I love, not you weren't a big Twitter person. I was.
Or Facebook.
I was. And I really liked the personal
or Instagram.
part of it. But as one of these stories also talked about, there's everything is curated.
Well,
there's almost nothing that is spontaneous. It's influencers, it's people trying to make money, it's all this kind of crap. So the theme, you didn't mention this, but a couple of things from what you're reading, either the headline or the subheadline is social media dead? And the writers concluded in both cases that it was dead or dying.
And also why it isn't fun anymore. I mean, that was a big theme, that it's just not fun anymore. I'm also wondering what people do to substitute Facebook, for example, or Instagram. I mean, there were all these great places like the mommy blogs. So many people I know, my daughter uses these all the time to get in touch with other mothers in her neighborhood to talk about different issues.
I can still do those.
Well, what are they doing? How are they getting them? Are they going through what alternatives might they be using? Because people are very attached, especially on Facebook, especially, frankly, a lot of older people our age, are using this for their pictures and their weddings and their children and their grandchildren and all these kinds of things. What are they using instead of that? There's a big attachment to a lot of these sites. I think people feel deprived without them.
877-301-8970. So is social media dead for you? And if it's not, tell us why not. And if it is, what else are you doing? I'm sure you're all on Threads. I would like to hear from one person at 877-301-8970. By the way, the whole notion behind Threads is they're going to avoid politics, which I thought was abominable at the beginning. But then my attitude was politics is so abominable. Maybe having a social media site where you do mostly avoid politics would be a good thing. But I literally, you read stories in the paper, as so-and-so said on Twitter, as so-and-so said on Facebook. I have literally never read one reference. How long has it been around? 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks? Where someone says, as Jane Doe said, or as President so-and-so said on Threads. So give us a buzz, 877-301-8970.
And one other thing we haven't mentioned is National Public Radio left Twitter quite some time ago.
Oh, this is huge. This is actually a big deal.
And this was after there was a post that called them basically government owned and operated and
state-affiliated media.
Exactly, state-affiliated media, and they said that's it. We're getting off Twitter. But they were kind of shocked, because I think that they were afraid if they got off Twitter that they were going to have a big problem getting information out, and they didn't. They found that their traffic dropped by a single percentage point as a result of leaving Twitter. Now, they didn't have a huge audience on Twitter before that. It wasn't like all their audience was depending on Twitter. But the idea that you kind of need this to be relevant is obviously not true, because National Public Radio runs coast to coast, and it is very relevant. So the idea that we're going to... But the other thing I wanted to say is Juliette Kayyem always talks about Twitter in real time.
She's a big-time Twitter poster, by the way. Big time.
But her argument is that this helps people tremendously in disasters, in hurricanes, in any kind of tornado.
Well, if it's truthful, it helps a lot.
Right, but that first responders can get to specific areas they know about really quickly and that kind of stuff. So I remember the Arab Spring years ago. That was all kind of a Twitter creation, but it was a long time ago. So anyway, 877-301-8970.
Let's take some calls.
Let's start with Paul in Worcester. What do you think, Paul?
Hey, Paul.
Hey, Marjorie and Jim. I hope you're doing well today.
One of us is, thank you. How are you?
I'm fabulous.
Great.
And if you remember a while ago when you talked on this subject, and I said I don't do social media, and you asked if I lived in my basement. I'm still living in my basement, and I've never had any use for it, with one exception. But
what was the one exception? What was the one exception?
One exception is I still keep track of the alumni group from the summer camp I went to when I was a kid on Facebook, and I get text or emails Facebook every once in a while that says you have more friends on Facebook than you think, and my thinking is I have way less friends on Facebook than Facebook thinks.
So what summer camp did you go to, Paul?
It was Camp Chickamee in Wayland. Fabulous summer camp. I was the best frog catcher they ever had there.
That's a beautiful thing to celebrate. Paul, thank you for your call. We appreciate it. 877-301-8970.
Someone is watching from the library who just deleted the X app right now.
Who is that? Raise your
You
hand.
want to tell us who you are out there? You just
Really?
deleted the X app?
What? Yell out. What motivated you today to do it? Do you know? Your show. Okay. Thank you. We had an effect on one person. 877-301-8970. I don't know why I've been so hesitant. You know, this NPR thing, for those of us in the news business, is really heartening that the impact of, I basically use it as a promo thing for what we're talking about on the show, what I used to talk about on my television show, and all that sort of thing. And apparently it doesn't make much of a difference, which is a pretty good reason to drop it, as this gentleman did a few minutes ago.
Well, here's another one who said, I ditched X when Musk took over. I mostly use Facebook to participate in international canine rescue groups.
Yeah.
And Facebook, and this is a great point, is a very useful tool in rallying support, coordinating transport, raising funds, finding volunteers, foster homes, forever homes, that kind of thing. I mean, it is
Well, they
really...
can keep doing that, and your daughter can keep doing her mother
but-
group. You're not precluded from doing
Well,
it.
but if you're going to get off Facebook, you're not going to be doing those things. That's my point. If you are objecting to the misinformation, there's a lot of misinformation on Facebook. A lot of algorithms are very geared. We did a story a year or two ago that if you say you're pro-Trump, within 7 days you can be going down a rabbit hole of this crazy, nutty stuff.
You know what you get now if you say you're pro-Trump?
What?
Taylor Swift. And she doesn't even support him, and you get Taylor Swift. Doesn't matter. If you're pro-Trump, you get Taylor Swift. If you hate Trump, you get Taylor Swift.
Yeah, she's huge.
By the way, I love Taylor Swift. This is too much. This is two headlines on the damn football game last night.
You know what?
Between Kansas City and Denver. This is
I
true.
love it. I think it's
Headlines
great.
say Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce triumph over Broncos.
I think it's
What did
great.
she do?
She cheered him on, Jim. She cheered
it's really
him on.
insane.
But we're all worried if Kansas City loses or if he fumbles. Is romance over?
That's,
Does she ditch him
I
if
think
he
it's
drops the
over
ball?
anyway.
Jessica in Massachusetts, someplace. What
Hi,
do you
Jessica.
think?
Hi. I just wanted to mention that for certain industries, social media is a real important part of it. And I'm a visual artist.
Yeah.
And I work for a nonprofit arts organization called the Photographic Resource Center. And for us, because photography and imaging is so important in what we do, it's a great way to, Instagram specifically, is a great way to keep in touch with other artists and arts organizations, museums, and know what everybody's doing and see what's going on.
So you try to basically maneuver your way through the crap to deal with what matters to you in your work. I mean, that's the bottom line, Jessica, yes?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's a way for us to keep in touch with our community and other parts of the arts community in a way that we can see what they're doing and also have conversations.
That's great.
And these conversations are largely not political.
That's great. That's great. That's terrific. Hey, Jessica, thanks for adding your voice to the conversation. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of those kind of things.
Well,
Facebook's
like what?
valuable for community group things like buy, sell, trade. Hey, is your power out too? That's Alan from Concord. And somebody else, Aaron from Hopkinton, said he started using Twitter to find COVID vaccines back in the panic for COVID vaccines. Dropped it right after that. And he says if it's good for emergencies, use it in emergencies and leave it for the rest of the time. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break. Are you listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH? We are talking about social media, its big takeover, whether it's lost its spark and its fun. We'll be right back. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, and we are streaming at youtube.com and, Jim, facebook.com. Just want to point that out.
We are.
/GBH News. Okay, this is our fall membership drive. As I always say, if we didn't have these occasional fall membership drives, spring membership drives, we would have to have commercials to support us because 70% of our budget here at WGBH, or GBH I should say, comes from the donations of generous listeners like you who give us $5 or $10 a month or $15 a month. Today we have a wonderful gift. You don't need to say, I dropped my earbuds in the mulch. You've said that many
I'm going to
times,
say,
Jim.
no, by the way, it's incomplete. You dropped your earbuds in the mulch on the first day
That's
you
right.
got them.
I did, but we've gone over that.
earbuds,
We've gone over that many times.
Well, we're going to
many
go over it
times.
again a lot today.
But if I did still have them, I could tell you that they were fantastic wireless earbuds. Actually, I have another pair of the wireless earbuds.
Look at this.
Yeah, they're very nice. They come in this small charging case featuring the 89.7 GBH logo.
Pretty nice.
And they work for your phone, they work for your computer, they work for your tablet, any Bluetooth-enabled device. LED screen inside with a battery display. So that's what you get if you sign up for $10 a month or give it $120 all at once and ask for the Hi-Fi earbuds. The deadline, however,
what is
at the end of our show.
2 o'clock.
After that, the earbuds will not be available. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
By the way, I've tried these earbuds in the past. They are really high quality, really good. The one, obviously, we got to be honest with this. For listeners, the one problem with the earbuds, why don't you tell people?
Well, they can fall out of your ears.
No, not that.
What?
They only get Taylor Swift. Now, now, if you like Taylor Swift, that's terrific. But apparently, well, maybe that's not true. $10 a month, $120 all at once. They are really high quality. It does say, people like, I do too, I have to admit. I like when the logo's on stuff. It says GBH 89.7. In addition to being high quality, it's a great price. Did you mention, by the way, that a group of GBH members are offering an extra 10 grand today? Did you say that?
I did not.
Well, I'm going to say it.
Okay.
$10,000 extra being offered if by the end, by 2 o'clock today, if we have 250 people who have given, we get an extra $10,000.
Wow.
If we have 249 people, we're screwed. So essentially what we're saying, give now, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Fabulous earbuds, 89.7 GBH logo on them, LED screen with a battery display inside. It's a terrific gift and hopefully for a terrific cause. The wonderful work is done by our colleagues here on GBH Radio. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy, Modrigan. If you're just tuning in, we're at the library, by the way, live, if you're interested in such a thing. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about social media. It's big tech takeover, whether it's lost its spark, cesspool of misinformation, annoying ads. Are you still using it? How do you sort of curate your way through it? Or is the magic worn off? And it has. What are you replacing it with, if anything? 877-301-8970.
Now, Gwen in Worcester says she uses Snapchat to see what's going on right now in Gaza and the West Bank. When you click on the Snap map, it shows real-time snaps of what life is like there. I mean, that's one of the arguments for seeing things in real time that enables you to do that. Then we have another person who says, I'm a millennial. I got off all social media over a decade ago. It is mentally harmful, lessens your enjoyment of life. Trust me, it's better on the other side. And then several people are talking about the fact that kids are on social media now, and that's contributed to the death of it. When I was a kid, there was Club Penguin, Barbie.com, etc. And when those went away, kids went to adult sites, and those sites have now been over-sterilized and curated to make room for those young people.
877-301-8870. These two stories in the New Yorker and somewhere else we read essentially said that social media is dead or on its deathbed. Do you agree? Lynn in Westwood, you're next on Boston Public Radio. Hey there.
Is that me?
Yep.
Is your name Lynn?
This is I, Lynn, yes.
Hi, how are you?
So, I'm good. How are you?
We're excellent, thank you. What's going on?
So, I had called in because I couldn't resist this. I only use RIP Twitter, X, when I'm trying to get the attention of a company from whom I've bought some item that is not working the way it should.
Oh, Lynn, I love you already. Go ahead.
Because you've already filled out the form on their customer care. You know, the fancy garden implement you bought is no longer working properly. It's 2 months old. You want to have it replaced. Amazon says, "Oh, your 30 days is up. You can't return it to us. See the seller." And so when they never respond. So how do you get their attention? You basically imply that you're going to embarrass them, on social media if they do not respond to you, and they get back in touch with you, and you can get what you're owed.
You are my kind of person there, Lynn. I love that. That is a wonderful way to use social media.
I'm like a dog with a bone, but I wouldn't use it for anything else.
And by the way, how often are you successful in? You just put the username of the company. How often are you successful in getting what you want?
You look up the name of the company on Twitter.
Right, no, but I mean, when you do it, how often you prevail?
100%.
Oh, my God. Lynn, you're our hero. Thank you for the call. We appreciate it. Lynn from Westwood.
So this Toddy Bruning, the 22-year-old who's complaining about not being able to get what she's cooking for dinner on Instagram anymore.
Sad.
She's launched this Make Instagram Again crusade. She launched it last year. Kylie Jenner has joined her in her effort, and she talks about this sea of change. Instead of the everyday photos from regular people, it's become this curated platform. But what some people have done is they've moved to things like close friends, so they can just have a private list of people who have access to your content, which sounds like a pretty neat idea. And they have these other, closed groups and private postings that aren't so pressurized, I guess you can put it that way.
Speaking of Kylie Jenner, you know what I did the other day?
What?
I watched on the recommendation of, we were going to discuss this with Eric Deggans the other day, but the guy was so wrapped up in his book called Race Baiting. We never talked about it. I watched one episode of American Horror Story with Kim Kardashian acting, not like reality. She's great. I mean, she is, I thought, a really persuasive acting performance.
Well, there you go.
What do you mean, okay?
No, I'm surprised to hear that.
Okay, well, good
for her.
Javier, you are in North Providence, Rhode Island. We love Providence. Hello there, Javier.
Hey, Jim and Marjorie. Long-time listener, fourth-time caller.
Thank you for all.
Just wanted to... Yes, thank you. Just wanted to say that I primarily use my Instagram now as like the white pages. If I need to call a friend whose information I don't have saved in my contacts, or if I have to contact somebody, I give them a call through the Instagram app, and most oftentimes they answer, and it's like, hey, how's it going? Oh, not so well, and then, get into the minutia.
Yeah.
But no, I primarily use social media as like the white pages. For those of us old enough, I'm a mid-old-ish millennial. But yeah, for those of us who remember what the white pages were and how to use them, that's what I use it for.
You want to get really old people, Javier, you say, remember telephone books? Do you remember that? I used to deliver telephone books when I was a kid. Yeah. Javier, are you old enough to remember a telephone book?
I am. I remember my grandmother having to use them to sit in the car to see over the steering wheel.
Oh my God!
That is
my
a great
maiden
story.
aunts did the same thing.
That is great.
But it wasn't Javier. It wasn't the yellow pages. It was the yellow pages. So they could sit over the steering wheel.
Pages, right.
Yeah, they would sit on the yellow pages.
How did your grandmother's foot hit the gas pedal?
She sat as close to the steering wheel as I could remember, and that was before airbags. Cars in the 1980s.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful image, Javier. Thank you for calling.
That's where the word, the expression Q-tips came from.
I know that. Explain what a Q-tip is.
Well, it was a when little teeny tiny people, usually very elderly people, that would sit on the yellow pages to get above the steering wheel. They'd have a little tuft of hair that would stick up.
It's all you can see if you're driving behind them.
And you would sometimes be driving behind them, and you would think that there was no one driving the car.
You think it was like a drone before there were drones.
And then you would realize that it was a person that had a little tuft of hair just sticking up, and people, it's not very nice. But
what's wrong with that? It is what it is.
Well, I think people take offense at those kinds of things.
So Zoe just wrote us a note. Zoe said every time we mention Q-tips, it offends her every time. I drive a Mini Cooper. I'm still not visible over the headrest. Yeah. And Zoe is far from old age.
Well,
so
Zoe, I'm telling
Marjorie
you,
apologizes.
If you're having trouble now, it's
not going
to be good if you make. Like if you make it to 75 or 80. But I remember the maiden aunts with the yellow pages every single solitary time. Needless to say, they should not have been driving.
Speaking of
at
short,
all.
can I make a serious note for a second?
What?
Have you read the stories about Mary Lou Retton? The painful stories about this America's champion, Olympic champion in the 80s, who's now on some kind of critical care for pneumonia. And again, she was a huge star in the 80s.
A great gymnast.
And her kids are doing online fundraising for her medical care. Their goal was $50,000. As of yesterday, they raised you haven't seen this?
No.
They raised $275,000. It's really a horribly
because her
sad.
Insurance is.
She has no insurance. They never explain why. But this, America's darling for years.
She was
and
in the
years.
Wheaties covers.
She was. She was an Olympic champion, and she was on the Wheaties box. Josh in Brookline, you're next on Boston Public Radio. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi. How you doing?
Good.
Fine, thanks.
I used to be a big Facebook guy. And then I got off of it during, 2016, that time when politics was just too toxic. So then I turned to Instagram, which is nice because I can just watch other people like cook and baking shows and things like that on Instagram, which is nice. And unfortunately, I had to go back to Twitter this week to see all the pictures of the devastation that's went on in southern Israel too. So, and unfortunately, it rears its ugly head again.
But the problem, by the way, I've been going to Twitter X nonstop because of what's going on in the Middle East too. And I have to say, without a ton of research, it's pretty clear that a lot of what I'm reading is crap.
Yeah, how do you differentiate, Josh? How do you...
Much more so than in prior conflicts. But go ahead.
Yeah, how do you differentiate?
That's a good question. Yeah, no, so I always like to check from multiple sources.
So do I.
That's always important as an important educated consumer is to say, okay, if I see this picture, is this an account that was just started 2 weeks ago that has 100 followers, or is this like a reputable? I saw French news station that's a reputable reporter, and she's confirming that she saw, the bodies and I don't want to get too graphic, but the things that she saw in the kibbutz and in the thing, and I was saying, okay, this is a French reporter. She's from a reputable news source. That's going to be a reputable thing that I'm going to listen to or see than the account that has no real name with 500 different flags next to it, and that is sharing something that was from something that was clearly 3 years ago. And so, as an educated consumer of online information, you have to consider your source, like you do in all situations.
Josh, I love everything you said there.
That was a great
really
call.
Important for people to hear. Thank
Although
you.
I should point out Oliver Darcy, who's taken over the Reliable Sources column, and
explain what it is.
CNN.
It is
he covers the media, and he was talking about
It's a free newsletter you get every single night after midnight. You should subscribe.
And he was
CNN.
talking
It's
about
great.
the fog of war and the mistakes that have been made, not only with these fake things, but real reporting. The Wall Street Journal was all over the fact that Iran played a direct role in orchestrating this terror attack. Well, now they're having to walk that back because other people are questioning reliably that may not at all be true. And the most gruesome thing was the stories about the babies that both Netanyahu in Egypt and Joe Biden were talking about what Hamas had done to babies. The
beheading, you're talking about.
Yes, and I hope the White House is walking that back, and other places.
Horrible things are still being
horrible things are still happening,
babies,
but that particular method of killing has not yet been verified. But there have been reliable sources that have been wrong in the so-called fog of war, is the point. Anyway, we are moving on. We're going to talk up next to, after a quick pledge break, to Martha Copley, the first female Attorney General of Massachusetts, and Jessica Baby, the president of the Women's Bar Association, the 45th anniversary of the bar. We're going to talk about women in the law then and now and how dramatically things have changed in all those years. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. Wrong, I apologize. Okay. It's Babine.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Welcome. Oh, we're not doing Welcome Back to Boston Public Radio. We're doing Pledge. Before Marjorie tells you what the great gift is today, Marjorie and I are doing an event last night for a wonderful organization called Silent Spring Institute, and we're preparing before the event begins. We're the auctioneers for the event, and the head of hospitality for the Revere Hotel walks by me, brushes by me physically, walks over to Marjorie, says, "I love your show, Marjorie." Okay. Laura from Beverly obviously is related to Nathan because she says, "I'm donating for Marjorie."
Oh, Laura.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. You made my day.
Stephanie in Moortown. Who's applauding? What's the matter with you?
Well,
Get out of
other
here.
people might feel the same way.
Get
I don't
this
know.
guy out of here. Can you get him? Okay. Moortown, Vermont is Stephanie. Moved to Vermont 5 years ago. Will never give up listening to GBH. Can't give up Jim and Marjorie. Especially great to have a station I can count on, trust, and enjoy. Stephanie, thank you so much. The deal today is for $10 a month or $120 all at once. You get these fabulous earbuds. I'm going to hold them up because we are on Facebook or YouTube or whatever it is. See them? Yes, here they are. It's got a GBH logo on them. Much more importantly, they're really high quality. They're great earbuds. The charging case features an LED screen inside with a battery display. So it's a great deal for you because you get something really good. Great deal for us because we need the money. And in fact, if we get 250 people to give today before our show is over at 2 o'clock, we get an extra 10 grand. The way that happens is by you going to gbhnews.org or calling 888-897-9424.
Yeah, the deadline for that 10 grand is 2 p.m. today. That's when our show ends, coincidentally. So this GBH members, some very generous GBH members are offering, as Jim said, an extra $10,000 if 250 people give today before 2 p.m. And obviously, that's a lot of money, so we hope you can do that. The number's again 888-897-9424. You can give online very securely at gbhnews.org. And the wireless earbuds are pretty good. What are you laughing at?
Securely. I mean, I said this yesterday.
Because,
you have no idea what that means.
People get worried about this. Didn't you hear about George Santos stealing, allegedly, from all his contributors?
Last time I looked, George Santos is not working at GBH, so I don't think it's a real... He may be, but not as of last night.
He may need a job soon. Let's hope we don't hire him.
And he's good at fundraising.
To answer the phones at GBH.
Whatever.
In any case, you can, if you're jittery about that, you can, despite what Jim may laugh about, give securely at gbhnews.org. And the phone number to call, 888-897-9424. That's 888-897-9424.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. I'm Jim Browdy. She's Mark Dregan. We're live at the library, streaming online at facebook.com/GBH News, youtube.com/GBH News. On Monday, at the top of the show, we'll speak with the Consul General for Israel to New England. The ambassador will join us at 11. And in the last hour of the show, Abdullah Fayyad, who works for the editorial page of the Boston Globe, wrote a piece yesterday that is getting a lot of attention, grew up in Gaza. He will join us on the same show on Monday. We're joined now at the library by Martha Copley. Martha, of course, is the first female Attorney General of Massachusetts. She's joined by Jessica Babine, who's the president of the Women's Bar Association here, on the eve of the 45th anniversary of that very same Bar Association. Great to see you both. Thanks for being here.
Good to see you. Today, by the way, the show is called Marjorie and Jim.
That's right. As it should be every day, frankly.
By the way, we've had big fights. We were at the old station. It was made Egan and Browdy, and believe me, I complained for days.
That's right.
I'm surprised.
That's right.
Thank you,
well,
Martha.
I think that gets to our subject, of the moment. The Women's Bar Association, 45 years. Let's start with you, Martha Copley. I don't imagine when you began practicing law, when you got out of law school and got your first job, there were a whole load of women surrounding you in your office.
Well, interestingly, I was kind of the second wave. Graduated from law school in 1979. 40% of my class at BU was women.
I didn't know, really?
And so we had predecessors, and we've got the old generation, the new generation of women. And I got involved with the bar back then in the early 80s. They had just started in 79 for three reasons. Women on the bench, making sure that women in the profession were able to get ahead, and representing women in particularly about choice. And those were issues that drove us, because there was another women's bar association, but we got much more politically active on those things that we thought affected not just women lawyers, but all women, and still do today.
Well, it still do today, though. The numbers, Jessica Babine, are pretty stunning. We were looking these up this morning. Northeastern's law school class is 72 women. And nationally, from what I understand, the majority of people in law school in general are women, are they not?
That's my understanding, yeah. My understanding is that the majority are women, but I don't know if that bears out over time.
And women lawyers, Margie and I were talking about some women lawyer numbers in Massachusetts too, where from what 44% of registered lawyers in Massachusetts are women. And I was saying to Margie, it's a pretty good thing. And Margie said, how many law firms, when they have those names, Brooks, and whatever, one of those names is a woman? Not many. Are there, or are there?
More than used to be, but not enough.
There are, but little small firms for the most part, yes?
Yeah, I think that's probably right, because a lot of the big firms, those names have been around forever anyway, and the people named aren't even here.
So Martha Copley, you have a much rosier view than I do, I guess, of back when things in the late 70s and early 80s. I remember Andrea Gargiulo, the attorney that was fighting to get women to come. That wasn't about lawyers, but it was women in general to get into some of these clubs in Boston that were all men.
What was she, the licensing commission? Is that what she was?
Yeah. She worked for the city for a while, where a lot of decisions were made. I remember Lockover, which is another power place. It's no longer there, unfortunately, down near Downtown Crossing. That was all men too. A lot of these places where decisions were made into the 80s. I think it was 87 that the Rotary Club, the Lions Club, the Kiwanis, they were all men.
Yeah, and so but it was this group of women that started to make those changes. Look, Rotary International, there were a lot of countries still that didn't want women. It wasn't the U.S. so much as the international piece of it. But there's good news and bad news. A lot of things have changed, but a lot hasn't. But I will say a couple things. First of all, the number of women in college is up more than men. The women in professions, and women lawyers and judges have made changes in probate law, domestic violence, all the kinds of things that are central to what women live with and care about, including choice and maternal health and all the stuff that we still do at the Women's Bar and the Women's Bar Foundation to promote women. So this stuff, I never thought that we would still be where we are today, particularly after the Dobbs decision.
Yeah. We're going to ask you in a couple of minutes, Martha, who was your favorite woman president so far? So think about that for a minute. So
president of what?
Jessica, you know what, of what? Jessica Babine, what's the primary function of the Women's Bar Association 45 years in?
So the Women's Bar Association kind of is everything, right? So we have a networking branch where women are able to meet, encourage other women, support other women, and we also have an advocacy branch where we are on the ground helping with different pieces of legislation and trying to push those forward.
Like what?
Well, some of our priorities this year, we have the Lift the Kids Out of Poverty, where we're trying to change the amount of money that is going to children that live in deep poverty. An act relative to inmate telephone calls, trying to make those free. The statistics bear that mostly women bear the cost of those calls. So those types of pieces of legislation, we have a full legislative agenda, and we work with our coalition partners to push those forward.
And I read that men can join the Women's Bar Association.
For sure.
What criteria do they need to satisfy? Like, what's the vetting process to let a man into the Women's Bar Association?
Are you interested, Jim?
I might be. I want to hear what the criteria are, if you don't mind.
You should join us.
Well,
I mean, anyone that believes in the full and equal participation of women in the legal profession and in a just society can join the Women's Bar Association. So
well, there you go. There you go. But again, I sound like Debbie Downer here. But, when I hear things, and I have a lot of friends who became lawyers, a lot of them ended up getting out of private practice because they couldn't work the tremendous hours. And I remember a while ago, one of the big law firms downtown opened a daycare on Saturday. I said, isn't that swell? I thought, really? So that means that everybody can come in now and work 6 days a week. So the hours for women, unless they're working for the government, are really grueling.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on certainly where you work and how much flexibility your professions. But when you're at a bigger law firm, you have those same billable requirements, etc. If you work for the government, it's you're not billing your time. So it definitely varies depending. I mean, and we do see that as women get older, that they step back because they have those more like family obligations.
Yeah. Maybe you should do something and put it on your list, the child care. We haven't done much on child care. It's still as bad now as it was 30 years ago.
Well, it's not as bad as it was 30 years ago.
Yeah, it is.
It's bad.
The costs The cost and the
is crazy.
availability, the cost and the availability, and we've had these terrible shutdowns. I'm sorry, I'm being very pessimistic here, Jessica. I'm sorry.
I mean, one of the things that we worked on in the last couple of years is allowing for childcare when women are running for office.
You work on that?
So yeah,
That's great.
so like we were one of the supporters of that, and so we do jump in on those issues and feel passionate about them. Anything that can create a better society.
Well, let me be negative like Marjorie. And then we're going to take a break and we'll come back and be positive. I know there's progress, but when you hear a celebration of women, for example, in the U.S. Senate, where you almost were, Martha Copley, saying we've reached 20% of the, I mean, how depressing is that?
It's better than what it used to be,
I knew you were
right?
going to say that. We got to take a break. We're talking to Martha Copley and Jessica Babine from the Women's Bar Association.
Yes, and you are listening to Boston Public Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, and we are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News.
Segment. We're back. No, we're not back. We're talking about pledge. So here's the deal. A group of GBH members, we're not telling you who they are because we don't know who they are offering an extra $10,000 if 250 people give today before 2 o'clock when our show is over. Now, Marjorie likes that. Explain why you like that there's a 2 o'clock cutoff on that particular $10,000.
Because I want to raise more money than our colleagues.
Yeah, Marjorie is very competitive, very disrespectful of our coworkers.
Very disrespectful.
And all she really cares about is how much we raise during our show.
I tell you, people are watching, Jim. People are watching to
Who would
see.
they be? Who's watching?
Maybe the people that decide about your
Who
future
stays
here
and
at
who
GBH.
goes? Right, exactly. So the deal today is for $10 a month or $120 all at once, which is a pretty good deal. You get these fabulous GBH 89.7 earbuds. Well, obviously it has a charging case. It features an LED screen inside with a battery display. $10 a month, $120 all at once. And they really are high quality. And Marjorie asked me not to mention that when she got hers several years ago, it's a totally true story. She was doing some mulch outside her house.
That's right.
Day one owning the earbuds. What happened to them?
They fell in the mulch. And
did you find them?
I never found them.
Okay, fine.
But a listener sent me some new ones.
I know, that was really nice.
That was pretty nice.
So if you buy these and you lose them, a listener will send you new ones too.
Yeah.
The number's 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Yeah, the earbuds are very, very nice. They have this LED screen inside this battery display. It has a GBH logo on them. They're very nice, hi-fi earbuds. But they're only available till 2 o'clock. After that, they won't be available for the rest of the drive. And as I've said before, if you're inclined to give, you haven't given, it would be great if you gave during our show, if you listen to our show, because that would give us credit, and I'm very interested in getting that.
And we get the 10 grand.
And we get the 10 grand, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's done at 2 o'clock as well. As I always say, if we weren't doing these occasional pledge drives, we would be doing commercials, which can last 5, 6, or 7 minutes and are 2 or probably 3 times an hour. And that would be every single solitary day. So I know pledge is not necessarily your favorite time, but that's the trade-off.
I love pledge. We have a rule.
don't like
Yes, I do. And when I
pledge.
do, because the unwritten rule between the two of us, just a personal thing, we never read, and this is true, a positive comment about us on the air, because I hate when callers and when hosts do that. We do it during pledge, like Lori from Boxford, who said, Boston Public Radio, a.k.a. Jim and Marjorie, make my day every day. Kathleen in Medford, listen to Jim and Marjorie every day. Thank you. How good does that feel? And when people, Jared's standing over there, when we get emails saying we love Jared, we love Paris and Jeremy, we love Arun, we love Callie, we love everybody. How good does that make everybody feel in this place? Feels
Makes
great.
you feel good.
Jared, they didn't mention you. I was kidding. But in any case, they might mention you, so I'm sure it'd be good if they did. Yeah, okay. In any case, the number is, what is the number? 888-897-9424. They did mention Jared. gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're talking to the president of the Women's Bar Association of Massachusetts, Jessica Babine, and the first woman attorney general of Massachusetts. That, of course, would be Martha Copley. What's this gala deal, Jessica?
Yes, we're having our annual gala. This is our 45th year, so it's Beginnings, Breakthroughs, and Beyond. It's Monday, October 16th at 6 p.m. at the right down the street at the Boston Marriott Copley Place. Tickets are still available.
Where do you go? What's the website?
It's wbagala.org.
What happens at this thing?
So we have a full network.
What are you looking at me for? Like
We
that?
can't tell you. You gotta go.
It's a secret. It's a secret. But so for women who are out there that are attorneys, what do they get? Why do they want to join the Women's Bar Association?
They want to join us because we offer a lot of networking opportunities. First off, you're meeting other attorneys. We have really great programs like the Women's Leadership Initiative. It's a program that brings senior women attorneys together with up-and-coming stars of the legal profession and allows that mentor-mentee relationship. So we have that organized, that part of our organization. We have programming that allows, the substantive programming. We had one just last week that was it was called Emotion in the Courtroom, how to use it effectively while avoiding potential pitfalls and biases. And we had judges and other experienced attorneys talking to everyone in the crowd.
So, Martha Copley, is the old boys network still an issue? We have a lawyer who is the governor of the Commonwealth. We have a lawyer who is the mayor of the city of Boston, both of whom happen to be women, as everybody knows.
And AG.
And of course an AG. Well, Galvin is the only constitutional officer.
Correct.
Is Bill Galvin, who's a man.
Isn't that something? What a turnaround, huh?
It seems like slow, then all at once. But to the point of how long things happen, one of the things that happens at this gala is we give out an award in the name of Lelia J. Robinson. I bet you guys don't know who she is. But you're about to learn.
Who is she?
First woman who passed the bar in Massachusetts back in 1882. Went to BU Law School, by the way. But women fought for a long time for many things, to get the vote, to be professionals. She became a lawyer. She was married at 17, got divorced in her 20s for adultery, which was the only reason you could in Massachusetts. She went on to pass the bar, and then she went out to practice in Washington. But first women lawyer in 1882, we didn't even start the Women's Bar Association until the 70s. So things take a long time.
Yeah.
But they are changing, and I'd like to think they're changing in the right way. But look, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We keep pushing, and we will honor on Monday night former Supreme Court Justice Judith Cowan, who is a trailblazer. Joan Lukey, who is a terrific litigator and trailblazer in her own right. And our third is Taramedi Doucette, who works in legal services. So women have done the whole gamut of private practice, public sector, on the bench, in government. And so they've made a really big difference, I think, in healthcare. Not just women lawyers, but women doctors. And so this doesn't happen all at once, but then all of a sudden we see changes like 5 out of 6 constitutional officers.
October 16th. What's the website again if you want to go to the gala there, Jessica?
It's wbagala.org.
Congratulations. Great to see you both.
Thank you
Martha,
so much.
Jessica,
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
very,
much
very much for
your time.
coming in. We've been speaking with Martha
Good luck.
Copley, the first female Attorney General of Massachusetts, and Jessica Babon, President of the Women's Bar Association. After the noon news, GBH Executive Arts Editor Jared Bowen is with us. He's going to tell us about the arts around town, including a new musical about Lizzie Borden, who gave her mother 40 whacks, as we know, or allegedly anyway. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 from the Boston Public Library.
And as Marjorie said, it is Boston Public Radio on GBH 89.7. Most of the money we spent to bring you this program comes from listener support. And we're here asking you to take a few minutes right now, make a contribution during our fall membership drive. Please consider signing up as a monthly sustaining member at gbhnews.org or call us 888-897-9424. Good afternoon. I'm Mark Cohen. I'm joined in the studio by Elizabeth Lavoie.
And we have a $10,000 challenge grant in effect thanks to a group of GBH members. You can help to earn the challenge by giving now. We earn these challenge dollars by receiving 250 contributions by 2 p.m. today. I'm asking you to do your part now before you get on with your weekend. Your gift joined with other fans of GBH will help earn the challenge. Go online at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
And to stay on track for the challenge, we're looking for 17 more contributions in about the next 6 minutes. Really important to earn that challenge money so that we can keep Boston Public Radio and all your favorite programs on the radio here in Boston. Again, 17 more people to give in about the next 6 minutes. Let's hear from you at 888-897-9424 or go online, look for the donate button over at gbhnews.org.
We say that every dollar dollar makes a difference, and we mean it. It's true that we get contributions of $500, $1,000, and more, but most listeners give $10 a month or less their first go around. What matters the most is that the people who love and appreciate GBH take care of it by giving what they can. That's the theme today. Please make your contribution now. All gifts do make a difference. gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
And with your support today of $10 a month or a one-time gift of $120, we'll say thanks with our GBH 89.7 Hi-Fi wireless earbuds. Jim and Marjorie have been talking about it. These are new and improved. They sound great. They fit really comfortably, and they come in a great little case about the size of a Snickers bar, thinking it's Halloween, if you could imagine that. It's a great value at $10 a month, again, or a one-time gift of $120. Ask for our Hi-Fi wireless earbuds when you call us at 888-897-9424, online at gbhnews.org.
And to stay on track for the challenge, we're looking for 17 more contributions. Oh, that's 15 now contributions in the next 5 minutes. It's important to earn the challenge so we can keep Boston Public Radio on the air along with all your other favorite programs right here in Boston. That's 15 more people to give in the next 5 minutes. Give online at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
And if you've never given before, please know that GBH is here because someone else once took that first step from being a listener to a listener contributor. So please take your first step right now. We promise it only takes a couple of minutes of your time when you go to the phone at 888-897-9424. Just as easy to sign up online. Again, look for the donate button when you find us at gbhnews.org.
You listen to GBH throughout the year, so why not spread your membership out the same way by signing up as a sustaining member? You make a reoccurring monthly contribution from your bank account or credit card, so your contribution keeps giving all year round, and it only takes 2 minutes to set up. You can go online right now at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
All right, we're making a call out to all you BPR fans. Please take a couple of minutes right now. Show your support for Jim and Marjorie and all the news and entertainment programs you find here at GBH 89.7. We're looking for 10 more contributions to help us round out this hour. 10 more contributions now in about the next 4 minutes. The giving really easy to do, and it goes a long way to helping us meet that $10,000 challenge grant that's now in effect. So please do your part. Give as generously as your budget allows at 888-897-9424 or go online gbhnews.org.
And when you help us meet that challenge, you can pick up the Hi-Fi wireless earbuds when you give $10 a month or $120 all at once. They're comfy, easy to use, and feature the GBH logo. You'll be able to support GBH and enhance your listening experience all at the same time. Give online at gbhnews.org or you can call 888-897-9424.
Our fundraising for the day ends at 2 p.m. That's when this challenge offer ends. 2 p.m. today will be fundraising free for the rest of the afternoon. You'll have your All Things Considered, your world, all to yourself without any fundraising. But right now we're asking you to help us in our fundraising efforts with your support. 888-897-9424, online gbhnews.org.
You listen to GBH because you are a part of a community of public radio listeners, people who are interested in the world and concerned about your community. Right now, I'm asking you to join those listeners who also support public radio with money. Your contribution to GBH makes it possible for us to provide a trusted space for the news and information that is so vital during this very critical time. Give online at gbhnews.org or you can call 888-897-9424.
This is great. We're now down to 6 more contributions. We're looking for 6 more contributions in the next 2 minutes. Will help us stay on track. We're trying to reach an overall goal of 250 listeners contributing by 2 o'clock this afternoon. That will unlock a $10,000 challenge grant. We're doing well, so well this hour. We just need 6 more contributions in the final 2 minutes of the show. Please take those couple of minutes right now. Give as generously as you can. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
The phrase many hands make light work applies to GBH. That's our challenge today. Every contribution matters. And when most people start out, they're giving $100 or less. So if you're thinking your contribution won't make a difference, it will. When you give online at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
Again, that's 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. We're looking to hear from you. Take those couple of minutes now. Give as generously as you can, and thanks.
He is Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Yeagan. Welcome back to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, as we do every Tuesday and every Friday. We are streaming online at facebook.com/GBH News and youtube.com/GBH News. And I want to point out on Monday, in the continuing discussion of the tragedy in Israel and Gaza, we are going to be speaking with the Consul General for Israel to New England. That's going to be on Monday. And that's early in the show. And later in the show, we're speaking with a gentleman who grew up...
Abdullah Fayyad, who works for the Globe. He's on the editorial group, and he grew up in Gaza, wrote a terrific piece yesterday in the Globe. They will both join us, one at the top of the show, one near the end. We're joined now at the Boston Public Library by GBH Executive Arts Editor, Jared Bowen. How are you, Jared?
I'm well. Great to be with you.
Thank you very much. Now I'm going to lift your spirits before Margaret and I said earlier, we're at an event last night doing an auction for a wonderful group, Silent Spring Institute. We're at the cocktail party before. I am stuffing my face with pigs in blankets, about as good as I've ever had.
The food was unbelievably great.
At the Revere Hotel.
Yep.
And one woman, I think from Ellie's Breast Cancer Fund, I'm not sure, comes up to me and said, "You got to tell Jared this story. I was listening to him on your show, and he mentions the French something.
Oh, a prayer to the French Republic?
Yes, a prayer to the French Republic.
She was very excited.
He described it more than excited. She immediately went online and bought a ticket. She calls one of her coworkers to say, "I just bought 2 tickets so that you and I can go to this thing that Jared Bowen was talking about." And what does the coworker say? "I was just listening to Boston Public Radio. I just heard Jared Bowen talking about," what is the name of the play?
Prayer for the French Republic.
"And I just bought 2 tickets to Prayer for the French Republic." So you're an influencer.
You're an
my
influencer.
friend. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Well, that's nice to hear.
What Jared says goes. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
So I talk about a story that we just can't examine enough. Lizzie Borden's story from my hometown of Fall River. I'm getting criticized because I repeated the rhyme. Lizzie Borden gave her mother 40 whacks when she saw what she had done. She gave her father 41.
Why? Because she was not guilty or something? What are you criticizing?
Well, she was acquitted. She was acquitted.
Oh, she was?
This person says it wasn't as many whacks as that. But she gave them both a lot of whacks. Let's put it that way. But now it's turned into a Lizzie musical?
Yeah, this is a rock musical that takes this story that as you just summarized in the verse that emanated forth about this story from 1892, a hot summer in August,
very hot.
When the Bordens, Lizzie's father and stepmother,
Abby,
were murdered in the home. And of course, we're not immune to, we've never been immune to the great sensational stories, so it became an epic story of its time, and a lot of back and forth about whether or not she actually did this. And ultimately she was acquitted. But there were stories that followed her for the rest of her life. And so this rock musical that's now playing at the Umbrella Arts Center in Concord looks at Lizzie Borden through 4 different characters. There's Lizzie, there's her sister, her friend Alice, and the maid Bridget.
They tried to blame Bridget, the Irish maid.
Aren't you related to somebody who has something to do with Lizzie Borden?
No, I'm not related. Lizzie Borden, after the murder occurred on 2nd Street, which is kind of in downtown Fall River, and then she moved to French Street, to this very nice house that my aunt and uncle grew up in.
Oh, that's a
and
pretty
we would
big
spend
deal.
our childhood, looking for the axe in the house. That was big, to see if we could find the axe.
Because she would move it. That was your childhood thinking.
That she would take the axe with her from 2nd Street. Yeah,
did you say is it good?
It's what this musical does is it I like what they do physically in that they dismantle basically what's happening. You're looking at this time, late 1800s, and you see women who are oppressed, and they're in their even in their tight dresses, they are tightly done. And was there abuse in the household? What would motivate her? Because again, ultimately she was acquitted. Not that abuse allows you to murder someone, let alone your parents. But we see over the course of this about an hour and 45 minutes how everything becomes undone. You explore the personalities of these characters, and literally their corsets are undone, their hair comes down, and they find more freedom ultimately by the end of the show.
So you didn't answer my question.
I think it needs some work, and it needs a little tightening, but I loved what they did in taking this history and putting it in a rock musical.
Okay, so here's a little sound, a clip of the song House of Borden from Lizzie the Musical. I love it already. So is this like a small theater, it sounds like?
No, it's a bigger theater. And this is a great story. The Umbrella is an arts organization in Concord, and they have a relatively new building, which they opened just before COVID. So they were largely, it was a great impact of the pandemic on what they're doing. But you walk into the space in Concord, close to downtown, and you walk through an art gallery to go upstairs to the main theater, all brand new, and they also have a separate black box theater where they can do concerts and smaller productions. It's become a very great arts destination in Concord.
Do you not use the expression emanated forth? Do you know you used that in normal speech a couple of minutes ago?
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. Don't you think?
Listen, I embarrass myself all the time.
How often do you say emanated forth?
I say a lot of wrong things
You
all
do?
the time.
There's nothing wrong
I do.
with that. It's just a little odd.
Before we move on, I want to know if they emphasize the fact that Andrew Borden, the father, was such a cheapskate that he served like mutton that was rotten and oatmeal that was rotten.
How do you know that?
And Lizzie hated her stepmother. Because there'd been a million books written about the whole murder.
They didn't go into that, but I didn't realize, and I forgot to go back and see if this is true. I assume it's true because I presented it in the musical, that Lizzie's middle name was Andrew, after her father.
I did not know that.
Wow.
And supposedly she had a great bond with her father.
Well, the theory was that she killed the stepmother that she hated, and then when her father came home unexpectedly from lunch, she realized he'd be mad at her for killing the stepmother. She might be a little ticked off, so she had to kill him too.
Well, because her middle name was Andrew. Wouldn't you kill somebody?
There's a theory that Bridget had a great hand in this because now I've lost my words today.
Bridget was the Irish maid. It was an anti-Irish slur. That was how I interpreted it.
Wait, would you have a alibi? Her alibi.
Thank you.
Was entirely too specific.
Can I ask you a question? Because I'm not nearly as well versed, obviously, as the two of you. Did she kill them or she did not kill them? What is the conventional wisdom?
I think she absolutely did.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Even though she was acquitted?
She was acquitted.
Okay, fine.
They have a whole thing in the Fall of Historical Society. They used to have parts of her stomach in there. I don't know if they still do.
What?
I don't know. They used to have like innards and pictures of the Bordens.
Really?
On the couch and in the bed, dead.
Dead in bed.
They're black and white pictures, though, so
okay, can we move on from this?
Think.
Thank you. I know you know everything about it. I have to say, even though I didn't understand the story, I didn't understand what the very exciting, that's a quote, finding was. Whenever something as classic as the Mona Lisa, hundreds of years after, the experts, the researchers, the artists, whatever they're called, find out something new even at this stage, it thrills me. That's the good news. The good news, I didn't quite understand what they found. What did they find?
Well, I think a lot of scientists and chemists are very excited about this. A tiny little speck of paint from the Mona Lisa was removed at some point. This wasn't recently. So they were able to go back and look at this. By the way, it was in an upper corner that was maybe concealed by a frame or something. But they were able to examine it in such a way to understand that Leonardo da Vinci made his own background paint for the Mona Lisa. And he did this through this chemical experiment where he had lead oxide powder along with oil and this other thing that I can't even pronounce, plummoncrite or something like that. But he devised this formula so that he could, again, spread this material on the canvas so that the paint could dry even faster. And they now believe that this was a trade that was passed down through successive generations because they would realize later, more than 100 years later, that Rembrandt would employ the same technique. But we know, what for me is exciting is you read so much about Leonardo and what he did, and not only was he this exceptional painter, but he was this exceptional brain, and he wanted to change society with who he was and how he dressed, but also he was basically inventing flight and all of these other engineering feats. The man never stopped. He was constantly inventing. And here, 500 years later, we're only still unraveling everything that he found long before us.
Who wrote the biography that we had in? Walter Isaacson?
Walter Isaacson.
Was it Walter Isaacson? Yeah, we had a man. He was obviously written the Musk biography.
The Musk one. He's taking some criticism on the Musk thing for being too nice to Elon Musk.
That's hard. Walter Isaacson was with us on the speaker series 1 or 2 years ago, and he was spending a lot of time with him. He was going down every single Friday to Texas to be with Elon Musk.
24/7, he said.
And I think I may have even asked him that. What is that like? Because you're spending so much time with your subject. You think of some of the other people he's written about that he
Steve
didn't.
Jobs.
Exactly. That he didn't have that time, or Benjamin Franklin. But of course it changes when you have close proximity to someone. You get to know them more personally. It's harder to be robotic and objective as a journalist and writer. Ken Burns did Benjamin Franklin too, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
So
it
it's
was
from
great.
Ken Burns. everybody celebrates the obviously discoveries of Benjamin Franklin. You know what the most important discovery was, which I learned from the Ken Burns film?
What?
The flexible catheter. Do you know?
That's right.
Totally true. Thank God.
That's right.
For that. So the Mona Lisa, is it? I know you're sort of saying you don't think it's that big a deal either.
No, I think it's a bigger deal for knowing, again, just more of how
amazing he was.
Yeah.
Did you ever see it, either of the two of you?
I saw it in January.
Yeah, I have too.
Yeah, and I was initially, I remember I saw it when I was in college, and I was just surprised that it was so small.
It's small.
Yeah.
You know what I did? I went to the Louvre. I just did this in January. I entered the museum right at, I think they open at 9 o'clock. Went straight there and basically had that gallery to myself. Again, it was January, so it's less touristed, but it was before anybody was there, so I had a fair amount of time.
How exciting is that when you're alone with something? I'm serious, alone with something like that. Is that not thrilling?
Yeah.
Well, it seems to me the thing about the Mona Lisa is the expression. That to me was what kind of...
Well, I mean...
You know what I mean? It's incredible expression. And didn't he do the chiaroscuro, whatever they call it? Wasn't that Leonardo too? Figure out the way you go into depth in paintings with the famous
perspective,
Last Supper thing. Yeah.
And also with that painting, with typical Italian Renaissance painting, you didn't see the subject looking at you. And here you have this engagement. And then what he did with the background and working the colors, and this is why I think this discovery is also really interesting, because it perhaps allowed him to layer paint and work with paint in a different way, knowing how it was going to dry and knowing that he had this layer beneath it all, which he also employed in the Last Supper.
Do you ever touch a painting when no one's looking? We've discussed this about Scott. I know.
It's a wonder you weren't arrested.
I'm not advising. No, I did that once in my life.
You touched the Pietà.
I did
Can
touch
you imagine
a Pietà.
that?
Well, no, I did touch it. By the way,
it's
what
a way
harm?
that a million alarms didn't go off.
No, that was like 30 years ago or something.
Well,
I think
still.
Pre-alarm kind. Did you ever touch a painting you weren't supposed to touch?
No.
Because it totally runs, even if you're alone, it violates every principle that you believe
Well,
in.
I think also I'd just be terrified that I would be the one to do something. Some
That's a very
chip
good
would come
point.
off of my finger, or
Very
I'd
good
leave
point.
the oil, which is why they don't want you touching it.
We have to
the
take a
oil
break,
from your fingers.
Oh, we do have to take a break. Thank you very much,
break,
Jim,
yes.
for reminding me of
That's
that.
why I'm
Okay,
here.
we're talking
Thank
to
you.
Jared Bowen. We're going to talk about why streaming prices going up as soon as we get back with Jared Bowen. But first, we have to take a pledge break. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7. We are broadcasting from the Boston Public Library, streaming at facebook.com/GBH News and youtube.com/GBH News. So once again, we have a very generous group of GBH members who are offering an extra $10,000 if 250 people give today before 2 p.m. We don't know how many people have given.
I actually just got a note.
Oh, you did?
This is incredible. We need to hit 250 by 2 o'clock. We already have 140 have given. We just need fewer than half, 110 people in the next hour and 41 minutes, and we get the $10,000 thing. So it's within reach.
Yeah, it's very exciting, and the whole thing ends at 2 p.m., that $10,000 offer. So if you haven't given before and you've been thinking about it, you know, I've done these pledges so many times, I'm repeating my stories, but forgive me for doing that. Before I ever thought I was going to be on the radio, I used to listen to certain shows that I loved all the time. I play my days. This is before streaming. If I'm going to be in the car for a certain show, and I listened to NPR constantly, and I remember when I felt a little bit guilty when the pledge time would come because I hadn't given. And when I did give, not a lot of money, but I gave a little something, I felt like I was part of a club. I felt like I was no longer being a freeloader, because this service is free to people. You don't have to pay for it. There's no streaming charge. You're not going to have to get out your Visa or your MasterCard. So if you've listened to us for a while, you like what you hear, and you haven't given, maybe this is an opportunity to give. We are on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's a lot of programming. It costs a lot of money to do what we do the right way. So if you haven't, maybe this is your opportunity. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Don't be shy. Mention the other reason we talked about this morning.
What's the other reason?
Jared's hanging by a thread. Let's face it. And we love Jared, and we want to rescue him from whatever hell he's currently in.
Word is somebody else might be hanging by a thread, Jim. That's what I hear.
If you give $10 a month, we won't talk about that. $10 a month or $120 all at once. what do you get? Oh, you get this GBH. Look at this, Jared. GBH 89.7 earbud thing.
Yeah, lovely.
And it really is high quality. And the twofer, Jared is looking at it. What do you think, Jared? Can you put Jared's mic on? What do you think?
Oh, it's even got this little digital thing in it.
It does. What do you think of that?
It tells you battery stuff.
That's right.
Wow, that's
We
great,
love it.
Jared. Thank you. In any case.
And they're big.
Okay, if you call 888-897-9424, but not obtrusive, just big,
They're not
exactly
obtrusive.
the right
They're
size.
stylish. They're chic.
GBHnews.org.
Sort of.
And by the way, the gift, as I always say, gift should be secondary. If you care about the station, care about the work here, then give some damn money. 888-897-9424, GBHnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan, excuse me. This is really, I mean,
Sometimes I think he does
again?
forget who I am.
No, I don't
actually.
forget who you are. I know exactly who you are.
Jim Browdy, and then he finally says
fine.
Marjorie
I'm doing it
Egan.
again. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Thank God we're not live. I'm Jim Browdy, and she is
Marjorie.
Marjorie Egan. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're talking with Jared Bowen. The conversation. Oh no, that was before. Hi, Jared. Nice to talk to you again.
Wow, that was a long time to get here.
So, Jared, it's highlighted the Bray writes in the Globe. A few years ago, streaming movies and TV seemed like a real bargain. Not anymore. So why are the costs going up so much? Everybody's noticed it.
Well, I actually learned a lot about this not too long ago because I was talking to a friend of mine who's an executive in Hollywood, and he was explaining that streaming, it was basically building a new Hollywood in a sense. They were building this whole new infrastructure, and to get people to gravitate toward this infrastructure, they had to have great shows, they had to have marquee stars and programming, and so they spent a lot of money. They have spent billions and billions and billions of dollars to do this, and they've all mostly put themselves in a hole except for Netflix and Hulu, which seem to be doing really well. They're hedging their bets. They're not realizing that people are moving away from, in large measure, from broadcast television and cable, and that streaming will become the future, and it is because the numbers are changing. I think only about 60% of homes are relying on cable at this point, and I think something like 86% of people are streaming something now. So they know they'll get the money, but now that they've got the people in the tent, and they know that they want to stay there to keep watching this great programming, they're escalating the prices. And so this is why it's starting to go up. And how many people are really going to protest if Disney or Hulu or anything goes up a few dollars at a time, which is what they're doing. And of course, they've added this whole other mechanism whereby they add the ads, and to get rid of them, you pay even a couple more dollars. But it's really fascinating. But the other thing that works for the studios is, unlike before, where you may have just been programming for an American audience, whether you have your films come out here, the majority of your films come out here or on television, they're now programming from around the world. Amazon just did this show, Citadel. They poured tons of money into it. They just had this other show, it's part of the Lord of the Rings world, and something like $750 million. I mean, we're approaching $1 billion for some of these productions, but they know they're going to send it around the world. But the other problem with that is they're making it for a worldwide audience. So it's very homogenous, and I was desperate to watch that show, Citadel. I thought it was going to be really fun, and I just found it really bland. But that's because they're trying to appeal to everyone. Because if you talk to people, different countries, different audiences have different sensibilities, and that's why programming becomes more specific.
So if it turns out the actors' strike continues for an even longer period of time, do people actually respond with their feet, so to speak? Do people leave streaming? I mean, a lot of us join for a month to watch one show, and then if you remember how to do it, you cancel your subscription. But I'm wondering if there's not a lot of new content. I wonder if that's going to affect these subscription rates.
I don't think so. I've kind of taken this opportunity to finally go back, and now that there's not a lot of new content coming, to go back to see the stuff that people have been telling me about for years. But by the way, this is also why the actors' strike is dragging on. It's why the writers' strike dragged on so much, because in addition to AI, streaming is huge here because the studios and production companies haven't been as transparent about who's watching. With broadcast television, you had Nielsen ratings, and they knew exactly how many people were watching. They knew exactly what advertising dollars were. They knew exactly where it was going to run and air, and then they could build contracts based on that. You can't do that if you don't know what you don't know in terms of how many people around the world are watching something that you're being paid for.
You know what I've read, and I don't know if Bray touched on this in his piece, but packaging things together. Like if you get Comcast or one of the other cable things.
That's not a new thing. That's not a new thing.
Well, it's not a new thing, but if they put together like Hulu and Amazon, you know what I mean? You get to pick certain in one bundle, as it were. I mean, is that?
Well, I think that's because it's, for instance, I don't even completely know the ownership, but Comcast also owns NBC Universal, so then you get Peacock that comes with that,
Yeah.
and Disney and ESPN, they're all owned by the same company, so that's why they bundle those. So that's largely why you find that.
Yeah, but I mean, in streaming services, if you just wanted to go to, you just wanted to get Apple, Amazon, and maybe Hulu in a package kind of deal. You know what I mean?
No.
Yeah.
No, you don't?
No,
okay. Well, I think buying them in a bundle as opposed to buying them, you have Hulu, you have to pay for each one separately.
Yeah.
Yeah, the idea
Well, that's one of the reasons cable is dying, because you can't do that kind of thing. I mean, one of the appealing parts of streaming, is it not, is that you don't have to accept this whole package of crap that you don't want. You can pick and choose.
And this was interesting when Hiawatha Bray wrote about this in the Globe, and I feel like I'm experiencing this right now because in fact, about 2 o'clock today, I think I have a call with Comcast, so I can cut the cord finally because I've had cable all this time.
Really?
They don't care. Because I had one conversation with them. It used to be, well, what can we do? How can we bring the price down?
They don't
Because we
care
want to keep you
anymore?
as a client. But Hiawatha Bray was pointing out that they're paying so much money now just to be able, in licensing fees, to be able to carry all of these channels, that it's way cheaper to just be a broadband company because you're just feeding out. You're not having to buy the content. You're just feeding out internet stuff.
Am I allowed to mention what you did last night, or is that we're not supposed to talk about
No,
this?
you can talk about that.
Okay, do you mind? We have a couple of exhibits we're going to talk about, but the earliest of them doesn't close for a month. So can we table all this for a minute?
Yeah.
Who'd you spend time with last night?
Well, Tuesday and Wednesday.
Tuesday and Wednesday.
Jane Fonda.
And tell us about.
Oh, gosh.
We've both interviewed her. We had her on TV. We had her on radio. You did an event with her somewhere in Brookline or Coolidge Corner or
where
whatever.
she was she was so shy before we went on stage. I was stunned. This great big star. Yeah, we were behind. The two of us, it was a great thrill for me. The two of us alone in a room, and she kept telling me, don't ask me about that, don't ask me about that. I finally said, I'll have nothing left to ask you. But she was nervous about certain things. And then she went out on the stage, and she was just a powerhouse.
So how was she this week?
Same.
Really?
She was so incredible. She is 86 years old. She has this amazingly tight memory, and maybe she just feels more comfortable than ever. And if you've read her biography, if you've heard her talk, a lot of her life she's not felt comfortable.
No.
She was made to feel fat by her father, and in the way she grew up, women were not treated well, and she internalized a lot and held on to that for so much of her life.
Suicide.
Her mother committed suicide.
Yes, when she was a very much little girl. And Henry Fonda just brought this new mother, and no discussion about it.
But she has really, over the years, discovered herself. She's been through many trials. We talked about Vietnam the other night. She can talk about that very openly now and walk people through what she was thinking at the time, what she regrets now. She's hilarious. She's unapologetic. She's unfiltered, all of my favorite things. I just found it fabulous and wondrous to be with her because she's got that Hollywood, sort of old school Hollywood mentality. She knows her timing. She knows how to treat people. She's incredibly elegant. There was a reception beforehand.
Smart.
She met everyone, and really so smart.
And she's tiny. She's tiny. I was surprised at that too.
Yeah. What's the series you're doing?
The Boston Speaker series.
Boston Speaker series. And by the way, you mentioned it. One of the things that we talked about when we were both interviewing her a couple of years ago is how many trends she set in this country. I mean, from her political activism to becoming, you didn't mention, the exercise guru of America with those videos. Remember videos?
And do you know why she did that?
No, I do not.
For political activism. She was looking at Lyndon LaRouche, who used a business to fund everything that he was trying to do. And she said, well, how can we do that? This is when she was with Tom Hayden.
It's great.
So she thought, well, I know how to exercise. And they created the exercise program, which basically created the home video market because there wasn't really home video until then because videos were so expensive to buy.
We all had those. Jane Fonda with the buttocks tucks.
Also, think about this. We don't have a lot of time for this. We go from Tom Hayden, Chicago 7, state senator in California, to CNN.
No,
Ted Turner.
she started with Roger Vadim.
Vadim.
Barbarella.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
She
she was
started
Barbarella.
And he was the director.
Ted Turner.
Yep.
And
the love of her life.
Is that what she said?
That's what she said, Ted Turner.
Yeah, her favorite ex-husband is how she describes him.
Yeah.
Ted Turner, that's a pretty good line.
Yeah.
Okay, Jared, it's wonderful to see you. Thank you so much.
We're done?
We're done.
That's how she ended. We're done?
That's pretty good.
Okay. Thank you very
Great to
much,
see you,
Jared Bowen.
Bowen.
We have been talking with Jared Bowen, the executive arts editor here at GBH. Thank you very much, Jared. Coming up after a quick pledge break, GBH's Callie Crossley is zooming in from a journalism and women's symposium in Chicago. We're going to talk about black kids fighting about their hair with superintendents and authorities in the school system. Still, that's going on. And apparently, former President Trump is very annoyed that he's been thrown off the Forbes richest men or woman in America list. He's demanding an apology. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library.
You know, the only thing we love as much, if not more, than your generosity are the comments some of you leave when you make a contribution during Pledge Week. Lorraine from West Roxbury, capital letters, I'm donating for Jim so he doesn't feel sad. And what that means, if you don't know what Lorraine, almost everybody says, I love Marjorie, Jim's not so bad, etc. Hey, Jared, this one's for you. Allison and Mendon, I love GBH, especially Jim, Marjorie, and... Jared, exactly. So for $10 a month, thank you all, by the way. There are tons of these. We'll read as many as we can. $10 a month, $120 all at once. You get these great earbuds, GBH 89.7 logo on the deal. It's really high quality. I mean, I'm really into earbuds, and I know quality in this particular thing. These are really high quality. Obviously, Bluetooth enabled. You can use them with your phone, your tablet, any Bluetooth enabled device. They're fabulous. They're really good. And they do two things. One, they get you something really valuable for you to use, and they get us what we need, which is much needed revenue to do what we and our wonderful colleagues will do. A little bit more than 70% of our money comes from you, and we're trying to get to 250 contributors. We have about 100 more we need by 2 o'clock to get an extra $10,000 grant, Marjorie.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That's only going to happen until 2 o'clock today, and we have until 2 o'clock to get those people to get that $10,000. So if you haven't given and you hesitate and you're thinking about it, this would be a great time to join in. I also want to read a couple more of these lovely comments people make when they contribute. Here's one. Here's someone that says they love listening to Boston Public Radio and love going to the library on Tuesdays and Fridays. That's from Catherine in Jamaica Place. Catherine here today by any chance? I don't know if she is. No. She comes a lot on Tuesdays and Fridays. And then we have one, people say nice things about our guests, too. We have a lot of great guests. We have pretty good guests. Heidi from Lancaster is singling out the great guests that we have. They love the show, but they love the particular great guests. I don't mention anyone in particular, but I'm sure Jared's at the top of the list. Of course, of course, of course. You hear what one of the donors just said? What? Marjorie, look at the clock. Oh, we out of time? We out of time. Oh, sorry. Thank you. I didn't notice that. Oh, well, there we are. That was a quick pledge break. That was a quick pledge break. Okay, we're back. We're not back. Oh. Thank you for donating. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marge Regan live at the library. Streaming online at facebook.com/GBH News, youtube.com/GBH News. Monday at the top of the show, Consul General for Israel to New England will be joining us near the end of the show. An opinion columnist for the Boston Globe who grew up in Gaza will join us. That's all on Monday. Right now we're joined on Zoom
from the Journalism and Women's Symposium in Chicago by Callie Crossley. Callie's the host of Under the Radar with Callie Crossley. You can catch that Sunday nights right here on 89.7 at 6. Also the host of Basic Black, that airs Fridays at 7:30. You can also hear her Callie commentaries Mondays on GBH's Morning Edition. And Callie, everyone wants to know, why did you not take Marjorie to the conference? Yes or no?
I didn't know Marjorie wanted to go.
Yeah.
You're certainly welcome to come.
Well, so last week, a couple of weeks ago, you were at the romance novelist conference, and now
Yes.
you're at a journalism conference out there. Good for you, Callie.
You
Good
know
for
how
you.
to live, Callie.
Yeah, you do. Is it fun?
Yeah, it always is. I've been coming for many years, so I see some familiar faces already, and then there'll be a lot of new faces, and we have some really good conversations about journalism, about how we cover it, about the topics at hand. I'm sure we'll end up talking about some of the things you and I discussed today because it's, current. So, yeah, it's great. It's professional development.
Well, I bet you one of the things, speaking of what we're talking about today and what we'll be talking about, I assume, every day for quite a while, unfortunately, is the conflict in the Middle East. What's the discussion like around there, informally and otherwise?
Well, we haven't started them yet,
Oh,
so I'm just
okay.
I know that we will have them as this afternoon as we officially get started. I just got here to the city, but the discussion for us is that this is. I mean, it seems like every day there's a more horrific turn, and I am really shaken to the core about everything. But this latest order to ask all the people to evacuate 1.1 million folks, half the population in the territory. That was an order that came from the Israeli military because, they hadn't say why, but it's clear that they're planning a ground offensive of some sort. And, nobody wants to see more civilians killed. Plenty of them have been killed right now. But the problem is you both know, the UN has come out and said it's not going to work. It's too many people, too fast. And we have to remember that Israel cut off the water and the fuel. So even if you can get out, your resources are limited. So I'm just scared. I'm petrified.
No, it's a horrible situation. And I think it's been, to me, the interesting media angle has been the people demanding to get equal coverage or not equal coverage, because obviously Hamas are terrorists, and that is not, that cannot be emphasized enough. But there's been a lot of uncertainty about how to cover this, I think. And that's probably something that people will be talking about this weekend. And as Oliver Darcy wrote in his column, there's been a lot of misreporting because of the fog of war, not exactly knowing what's going on at the time it's going on. So those are all big subjects that we have to learn from to try to do
I think it can't be emphasized enough, as you said, that Hamas is a terrorist group, but also the people in Gaza are not Hamas. So here we are.
Yep.
That's the scenario. So I keep thinking, and I have no idea because this is way out of my expertise. If the order has been given, and it has been, and people are trying to get out as best they can, is there some other kind of humanitarian aid to help them get out? Because the last I heard, and maybe you all have more current information, they were trying to just find a corridor to get medical supplies in, and I'm not sure that happened.
By the way, we don't have an update, but our colleagues will check on it, and if we do, we will bring it to you. We're talking to Callie Crossley, who's at a conference in Chicago. One of our favorite states, sarcasm doesn't play well, one of our least favorite states right now in terms of its leadership is Florida. Apparently a new crime, maybe not a new crime, but at least a front and center crime, is voting while black. Do you want to tell the story about the latest prosecution down there?
Well, two things. We both discussed on this show that unit that DeSantis has funded and put together. It's an investigation, I'm using air quotes now, of voter fraud. Remember, he said there was so much is so rampant, they had to fund an investigative unit. This is a police unit, and people said immediately, this is going to be a problem. Okay, so there's that. And then, if you recall, overwhelmingly, the people of Florida, the actual voters, voted to allow non-violent felons to be able to access their voting rights after they've completed their term. This is non-violent this is everybody in the state, overwhelmingly, yes, they should be allowed to vote. The minute that went through, you all will recall as well, that the legislature then said, no. So they kept trying to add stuff or take stuff away from the law that was voted in by the people of Florida. So that's been a mess. So it's been back and forth, take away this part, add this part, blah, blah, blah. So it's within that context that here comes 89-year-old, let me get her name right, it's Marsha Irvin. And she served a time, she did some felonious act, I don't know what it was, but obviously nonviolent. Served time, came out, went into probation, and voted. And they came to her house and arrested her on voter fraud charges through this special unit, saying, you can't vote until after probation. Her attorney is Ben Crump. Some people know his name from doing other civil rights cases. And he's like, wait a minute. First of all, you all have changed the law 15 times, by the way, the law that the people of Florida voted in. But be that as it may, wouldn't it be reasonable to assume if the law says the minute I complete my jail term, I can vote? Nobody said you have to wait till probation. That's some new stuff that they added to it. So he's protesting that, and he's asked that they drop these charges, and that's where we are now.
Well, we should add one thing. Am I not right that this 89-year-old for
She's
this
69.
horrific crime, 69, I'm sorry, was
I thought it
dragged
was
out
89, but go ahead.
Whatever age she is, was she not arrested for this crime in the middle of the night
3 o'clock in the
at
morning.
her house? They
3
go
o'clock in the
and
morning.
arrest her
Pounding on the door
at
3 o'clock in the
a.m.
morning.
For
Right.
what
This is the
clearly,
police.
if you read this, it was clearly a good faith misunderstanding of what Callie says has been the ever-changing landscape of laws for people who have completed their obligation to society in prison. And despite that, even if she had violated the law technically, the notion that they had to make a show out of it and drag her out of her house at 3 a.m. is pretty incredible, even for Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, she was convicted of neglect of an elderly person. It was her mother, but it was over her belief in not having medical intervention over religious belief. So that's what it was. But you know what? It's so obvious here. What they're doing is trying to intimidate African American voters.
Oh, you think so?
Thinking,
Of course.
if I have a parking ticket or I got in some minor scrape when I was 17 years old, maybe I better not vote because I don't want these things to happen to me. I mean, that's what they're doing, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Shades of Ferguson. I mean, remember all those black people?
Parking tickets.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. So, we are not surprised. As Jim said, this is Florida, but here we are.
But just before we break, and we got to break, I'm so glad you said what you said. The change in the law that allowed for felons who had completed their obligation to society, to allow them to regain the vote was approved by the voters of Florida. Right. I mean, that is really a momentous...
Overwhelmingly.
It is exactly right. It's really important to know. We got to take a break. Okay,
we're talking with Callie Crossley. She's at another one of her conferences out there. We're very jealous, Callie. Let's put it that way. She's going to be with us for a few, right after the break. We're going to be back with Callie Crossley, but right now we're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library. That's right. And if you've been listening to us for a long time and you haven't pitched in, maybe this is the time to do it. What did Mitt Romney call people? Free riders?
We couldn't remember, yeah.
And
this is around when he did universal health care, when he actually believed in it, when he was the governor of Massachusetts, before he was against it when he ran for president.
You don't want to be a freeloader, do you?
No, you do not.
You don't want to be a freeloader.
That's the F word.
Anyway, that's how I felt when I gave money. I didn't give very much, but I did give something many years ago when I first started listening to National Public Radio. Anyway, we have this great deal that's going on only till 2 o'clock. Because we have some very generous GBH members who are offering an extra $10,000 if 250 people give before 2 p.m. I think we're 2/3 of the way there.
80 more to go.
Yeah, 80 more to go. So for $10,000, that is, how much time do we have? We have an hour and 15 minutes left in our show. So we hope if you haven't given, you could take this opportunity to give. And you don't have to give a lot of money. You can give like $5. If you want to give a little more than that, though, $10 a month, we will thank you with the GBH hi-fi stereo earbuds. Jim has held them up many times.
I have.
They have the 89.7 logo on the outside, nice little white case. There they are. I think it's is it purple? I think the writing is in purple.
Whatever.
Yeah, it's very, very tasteful, Jim.
Very tasteful.
LED screens inside, battery display, works with all your devices, and who doesn't love earbuds?
Who doesn't?
888-897-9424 is the number to give at. You could call gbhnews.org, and I should point out again, we have this challenge, an extra $10,000 if we have 80 more people give and donate before 2 o'clock. That means an hour and 15 minutes left to go. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. We're broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library. I'm Jim Browder. She's Marjorie Egan, and we're talking to Callie Crossley, who just so happens to be in Chicago.
Here is another awful story. People may remember this. This case didn't get that much publicity actually when it happened. It got more publicity after the George Floyd murder. But in any case, this Elijah McClain was walking home, doing nothing, just walking down the street, and some cops, 23 years old, and some cops stopped him. And what happened, Callie?
Well, they shot him up with substance called ketamine, which has a specific use. And there's been a lot of back and forth among experts about, how it's to be used and when it was to be used. But in any case, I believe most people agree that the dose that they gave him was deadly.
Right.
And so he died. He's, as the parents said afterwards, he was a quiet, kind of strange kid, played music. He wore a ski mask over his face, or a mask of some sort, because he had a skin condition. And he was just, I'm sure he looked odd, but he wasn't doing anything. He was just walking down the street when they jumped him and accused him of stuff and wrestled him to the ground. And, it was a scene that we've heard before when he's saying, "I can't breathe," and all of that. And he's a young man, as you know. So they had a split decision in this. One of the cops was sentenced and will go to prison, and the other one was not. It's very interesting. I guess they're making some dividing line about, what action was taken at the scene. I thought pretty much all of them were involved, but I guess the other guy that was let off did not do as much activity as the first one, who I guess was doing most of the wrangling to the ground and blah, blah, blah. As we've discussed on this show many times, it is rare that police officers get charged with these kinds of crimes, so it is to be noted for that. But of course, my heart breaks for the parents.
Yeah.
I guess the mother was in the courtroom, because this was just so entirely unnecessary. You want to talk about a needless death? This is what we're talking about.
And by the way, the guy who actually was convicted, the maximum sentence he can do is 3 years. 3 years for taking the life of this young man is just, it's unimaginably horrible in my estimation.
It's really bad.
And they had him in a neck hole too, and they tightened up in his carotid artery, and the kid, I shouldn't say
and he's
kid,
very
the young,
slim.
very slim.
So,
yeah,
all of that was, extra force.
Yes, extra force, and a lot of places you're not even supposed to do those chokeholds anymore, and they did those as well.
Well, they've been outlawed in a lot of places, by the way, after George Floyd. Callie, one of the things I admire you is doesn't matter who it is, you will get behind an important cause if you believe in it. And I know you're leading the charge on behalf of one of our favorite people, who is demanding a full apology from Forbes magazine for having the audacity. Let me just read, for this is what this person said. "For years, Forbes magazine has attacked me with really dumb writers assigned to hit me hard, and I am now up 60 points on the Republicans and beating Crooked Joe by a lot." That may be Donald Trump, even though none of that is true.
Yeah.
But he is really upset because Forbes had the audacity to drop him from the list of the 400 wealthiest Americans. If there was ever an injustice that demands writing, it would be it, and you're the one to lead the damn charge, Callie. Let me tell you right now. So what do you have to say?
Well, I have to say, the former president does not serve himself well in this instance at all. Forbes, as you know, will tell all of your business. So they said his net worth is down by $600 million.
Yeah, I know. I love how
wait a minute. And he missed making the list by $300 million.
Well, you know
Doesn't sound like Callie's going to be leading the charge from her reaction.
You know what I
to
love
this.
about this? He says this is his quote, I hereby demand
That's right.
a full apology from the failing Forbes magazine. Now, I remember...
Oh, the
used to
failing New York Times.
Failing New York Times.
That's right.
Every time there was a story that nailed him in the New York Times, we talked about the failing New York Times. Every time we talked about the failing New York Times, the New York Times subscriptions would go up and up and up and up and up. The New York Times made so much money during the presidency of Donald Trump, and they still are, I think, based on constancy of Donald Trump in the news. But that's one of the expressions, is the failing Forbes magazine and the failing New York
So
Times.
if you think of it, it's tens of millions.
I'm surprised he didn't blame Letitia James.
That's right.
Because it's she brought the lawsuit about his committing business fraud by overvaluing his property, hence claiming to be wealthier than he is, which is the window, I assume, by which Forbes said, oh, no.
Yeah, things aren't worth...
But we've learned that Letitia James is a racist, so it doesn't really matter.
But you know what's
Isn't it
incredible?
interesting? Every black person who is prosecuting or involved in the prosecution of Donald Trump
they're
is a
all
racist.
racist. They're all racist.
You know what my favorite part of that case is? And everybody knows about this, so I'm sorry to repeat it, but I just love it. The fact that on documents to get loans, he was claiming that his penthouse was 30,000 square feet, while on prior documents he had submitted, it was only 10,000 square feet, which is not small, by the way, but it's still 20,000.
No.
And my favorite part is his lawyers, when confronted, I think by the judge on this, a few weeks ago, said it says subjective calculation. The square footage in your penthouse
That's right.
is a subjective
well,
calculation.
That's the alternative facts things.
Exactly.
Kellyanne
Conway from early on in the... I think Mr. and Mrs. Conway are no longer married, though.
That
are
is
they?
correct.
Yeah, I think so. I think that was too much of a bridge to cross, because he's made a career out of trashing Donald Trump, and she made a career out of... protecting him
Well,
and
you
saying nice things.
you have to talk about the other half of this story, which I'm sure he's pissed about as well.
What's that?
Which is Michael Jordan made the list.
That's right. He's a racist too, by the way. Let me tell you that.
Right.
Yeah.
He's ranked 379 of 400 on the Forbes richest. I'm going to guess that you and I, all of us, have helped put him there because, as you know, he gets $260 million in royalty checks from Nike. That's what Forbes said, I guess, last year. If you've seen Air, the movie, which details how it happened, you know that's just part of his wealth.
His mom, right? His mom cut the deal for him. Remember?
Right.
I mean, that was unheard of. And Matt Damon played the guy from Nike that was trying to cut the deal with Mrs. Jordan, and she
great.
Yeah, that was a really good movie. And you know what I loved about it? They just showed a young Michael Jordan from the back. So you just kind of, it didn't, they didn't have to get an actor that looked like Michael Jordan or something. They just showed him. It really wasn't so much about him.
Or play like Michael Jordan.
Or play like Michael Jordan, yeah.
6-time MVP, Chicago Bulls number 23, in case people are trying to remember who he is. By the way, his net worth is estimated to be $3 billion. So he's not 600 million off or 300 million off. He's kind of comfortably on the list.
So, Kelly, what's happening this weekend on your shows there?
We're doing our environmental roundtable gathering.
Oh, good.
We want to talk again about the impact. We hadn't really had a chance to dive deeply into it until it was announced that September was also one of the hottest months on record ever, August and September. So we're talking about what that impact is and the damage that has done. We're also happy to talk about some positive things. There's a 3-state plan between Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut to go in together to try to buy wind farm power, more wind farm power. And I think that portends to something that will be good for renewable energy. And then the tree canopy grant that you've mentioned on the show before, that's a big deal. That's $11 million for the city, for Boston. But the state also has a $1.3 million grant for gateway cities to add tree canopy. So, and then many other things, many other topics that are on the table with our environmental roundtable. But I'm also very excited about our second segment in this show, which is about cricket. Cricket, not crickets, cricket, the game. The World Cup is going on now, but yet, it's not a very popular game in the United States, except in Greater Boston and Massachusetts, played by immigrants. It's very popular. It's getting more popular. Major League Cricket debuted in Texas, of all places, this past summer. So it's probably going to go the way of soccer, to build through the youth, and then pretty soon we'll have more attention played to cricket. By the way, the second most watched game around the world, and second in popularity of all sports, second only to soccer.
Really?
Okay. Before you go,
Yeah,
I
I don't
hope
even know
you
what they
include.
do in
What's
cricket.
that?
Do you know what they do in
Yeah,
cricket?
you have like
Do they
a sticky wicket or something.
try to get the ball in the net or something
Well,
like a
not
sticky
quite.
wicket?
I'm sure we
thing?
don't have time for me to discuss it. I do know what they do, but
Okay, well, we'll listen to the show. Before you go, I just
Yeah.
want you to know, she's too humble to say this. Who is likely responsible for threatening Marty Walsh, the former mayor, that if he cut down the trees on Melniacast Boulevard, she was going to come get him?
Yeah.
Marjorie Egan.
Well, remember that? They were going to get rid of all those
course.
big
Yes,
old
yes,
trees
yes.
to widen the street, which widen the street was a good idea, but that's how we thought 10 years ago, because that's when they began we didn't even think in
Right.
terms of tree canopies, but it makes so much sense, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, I've written about that as well, and the people fought back. And they had to, because they were going ahead with it.
They were going to go ahead with it.
It was scheduled to happen, and then there was a lot of, wait a minute, and so, that was saved.
And the thing that they always forget is if you chop down a big tree, then, the next one takes decades and decades to
Forever.
grow back, right?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
Callie.
Kelly, enjoy Chicago. We miss you.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
take care.
Callie,
See ya.
hope there's no conferences after this one. We want you in the studio here.
Marjorie's jealous.
Callie Crossley. Callie Crossley, see you later.
See you, Callie.
Is the host of Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, which you can catch Sunday nights right here at 89.7 at 6 o'clock. She's also the host of Basic Black, which airs Fridays at 7:30. You can hear her Callie commentaries on Mondays for GBH's Morning Edition. Coming up after this pledge break, we're going to hear from the folks from the Boston Book Festival, including acclaimed New Yorker writer Adam Gopnik. We're going to hear what's happening here in Copley Square this weekend involving books and festivaling and all that. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. And we are in Copley Square, broadcasting from the Boston Public Library.
Tis the GBH Fall Membership Drive. We're taking just a couple of minutes right now to ask for your contribution. That's how public radio works. Most of the money we spend to run the station comes from listeners' contributions. And we're here asking for yours right now online at gbhnews.org or call us 888-897-9424. Good afternoon. I'm Mark Cohen. I'm joined by Jack Callahan.
And I have some amazing news here. We have a challenge going on right now to earn $10,000 before 2 o'clock by having 250 contributions. We are now down to 51 contributions. Now, if you were listening a few minutes ago, you heard Marjorie say that we would needed 80. That's the power of the BPR listeners turned into active supporters. Please do your part right now. Get us that much closer to earning that $10,000. 51 contributions left to go. 888-897-9424 or online at gbhnews.org.
And right now we're encouraging listeners to become members to the station by giving any amount. By making your financial commitment to GBH, you're helping to pay for Morning Edition, Boston Public Radio, of course, Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, and so much more. And so when you think about it, that's a lot of news, a lot of information, and entertainment for not a whole lot of money. So please join the growing community of GBH members by giving what you can right now. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
This is also a great time to become a sustaining member at $10 a month, because we'd love to thank you with our truly wireless hi-fi earbuds, only available today. The battery life and comfort will never be a problem with these great sounding buds. They'll work with your phone, tablet, any Bluetooth device. You can make a one-time gift of $120 as well. Great companion here, maybe to help you with your BPR listening when you're out and about. 888-897-9424 or online at gbhnews.org.
All right, BPR fans, we're looking to you. We're down to 48 contributions to help us unlock a $10,000 challenge grant by 2 o'clock. It is in sight. We can do it. We're asking for your support to help us reach that finish line in good shape. Again, 48 more contributions by 2 o'clock. BPR listeners, let's hear from you at 888-897-9424 online at gbhnews.org.
Yeah, we're looking to hear from you right now. You're going to be joining a great group of people. BPR listeners are awesome members as well. Call 888-897-9424. Let me say it again. I say it too quickly, I know. 888-897-9424. Thanks.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. I'm Jim Browdy. She is Marjorie Egan. We're live at the Boston Public Library, streaming online at facebook.com/GBH News, youtube.com/GBH News. Monday, we will start the show with the Consul General for Israel to New England. He'll join us at 11, and in the 1 o'clock hour, an editorial writer for the Boston Globe who grew up in Gaza will join us. That's all on Monday. We're joined now at the studio at the Boston Public Library by Boston Book Festival founder, Deborah Porter. Deborah, it's nice to see you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
It's very nice to have you. And I believe we're joined on the phone, I think, by best-selling author Adam Gopnik. Adam, you're there. Hello.
Oh, there he is.
His latest book is great to have you. Is the real work on the mystery of mastery. The sad part about having him on the phone rather than in person, we were told he's going to do a few magic tricks, but unfortunately they don't work on the phone. We're happy to have you anyway. The festival kicks off tomorrow in Copley Square, starting at 10. It's presented in partnership with GBH. Go to bostonbookfest.org. And by the way, it is free. Deborah, Adam, great to have you here. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're glad.
Wonderful to be with you.
It's wonderful to have you.
I don't actually do magic tricks.
Well, I don't care. We're going to have you do one anyway. What's that?
I only write about them.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I think you will at some point be able to help Jim with
another problem.
But
go
you
ahead.
guys share together. But we're not going to get into that right now because we're going to start by asking.
Oh my goodness! Yes.
Yes. We're going to start by asking Deborah about why you started this. Why did you found this all these years ago? What was happening and made you do it?
I was told that Boston was the only major city in the world that didn't have a public event around books. So I thought, now how hard could that be? I'll just start one.
Yeah. And how did it start? Where did it start? What was it like then?
It took a couple years to figure it out because you got to raise the money and you got to get the venues and there's just a lot of little details. And then in 2009 we started with 80 presenters. We had about 20 volunteers that we scrounged up at the last minute.
Yeah.
And all kinds of people showed up. We had too many festival goers and not enough seats. So.
And what about you? What is your attachment to books that made you want to do this?
I had just finished a master's degree in children's literature. And I was reviewing books for a number of publications. And I thought, I probably need to do a little more with this. So here I am.
Deborah, before we ask you more, can you unconnect can someone help Deborah with the mic there? So Adam, why are you part of this thing? What's your deal? Obviously you're a great writer, but why are you part of this festival in particular?
I've been coming up to the Boston Book Festival at Deb's invitation, particularly since 2010. I just checked last night. And book festivals play an extraordinary role in the life of literature. I just got back, if you can imagine, from a week-long book festival in Gothenburg, Sweden.
Neat.
Famous. It was extremely cool. They put us in a hotel opposite an abandoned amusement park so we could watch a Ferris wheel not move all through the time, which I guess is a pretty good metaphor for the writer's life. But the truth is that it serves two functions, I think. You're amazed always at the avidity of readers to connect with authors. Maybe that's a decadent motive in a certain way, but the connection that authors can make with readers and readers make with authors is only possible at an event like this one. And then it's a joyful thing for authors to connect with authors. You inevitably meet people who you've always admired and never met. I'll be talking to Simon Winchester tomorrow, a wonderful writer I've been reading for decades and never had the chance to converse with, and we'll be conversing for the benefit of the people who come. And then finally, with the pandemic over now, or at least our having declared it over, to restore the living communal life of literature seems terribly important.
I thought you were going to say, by the way, that the stalled or abandoned Ferris wheel was a metaphor for Congress in America, but I guess it can only be for so many things. Talking to Adam Gopnik and the woman who started and continues to lead this Boston Book Festival, Deborah Porter. Deborah, can you tell us, I know you have mountains of people, huge. Give us a sense of some of the people who will be presenting.
We do have, we have about 200 presenters tomorrow. Heather Cox Richardson is our nonfiction keynote.
By the way, she'll be on with us in mid-November to discuss her book. She's fabulous.
Yeah. So we have a session around deconstruction of myth, which is a kind of a funny story because Emily Wilson is the translator, the first female translator of first the Odyssey, and now her Iliad has come out. Our fiction director, was very excited that we invited Emily Wilson, and she's coming, and she was so excited. I said, well, that is wonderful news, but most people haven't heard of Emily Wilson. But in the last 3 weeks, she's been profiled in The New Yorker. She's been on every interview show. I mean, everyone has heard of Emily Wilson, and she'll be there tomorrow, appearing with other authors talking about the deconstruction of myth. Suzanne Moore and Ha Jin are in that session, so that's pretty exciting.
Deborah, you're talking about book banning and all. Most of us think that a lot of horrible things in this country happen there, not here. David Leonard, the president of the Boston Public Library, was with us a month ago or so, talking about book banning right here in Massachusetts. Is that on the agenda at some point?
Yes, at the closing out the day, we're going to do a session about book banning, the backlash against woke. So that will be, we'll have David Leonard will moderate a session with the head of the Brooklyn Public Library, Linda Johnson, and Jocelyn Chadwick, who's an expert on literature and free speech, and also Suzanne Nossel, who's the head of PAN America.
By the way, Paris and Jeremy, who do our morning show here, Paris is going to be
doing a panel.
Sharing something on how to be happy. I should be going to that one. And Jeremy's doing something on understanding, I should go to that one too, actually, but they're both here this week. And we're talking to Adam Gopnik and Deborah Porter from the Boston Book Festival.
Adam, we want to talk about the real work, your new book in a minute, but I also wanted to mention, because there are a lot of people here who feel kind of traumatized, like your daughter, by the election of Donald Trump. And so tell us what you told her in 1,000 Small Sanities, The Moral Adventures of Liberalism. What'd you tell her?
Oh wow, that's I think my favorite of my books in lots of ways. It was my attempt to write a letter to her about liberal values. Liberal values not meaning the allegiance to one political party or another, but the deep beliefs that animate liberal democracy, a belief in pluralism above all other things, a belief in the oscillation of parties in power, a belief in the power of debate, argument, evidence, and persuasion. I wanted to make those things seem to her not just kind of dull and institutional and backward, but to seem animated and alive and morally essential. So I wrote a book, which in the form of a long letter to Olivia, who will be at the book festival, I'm glad to say, a long letter to Olivia about liberalism in that sense, liberal democracy, as a moral adventure, not as an institutional procedure. And that's what 1,000 Small Sanities is all about.
Did she feel better after she read the letter?
No, her dad wrote it. Your dad writes something.
Yeah, I know. You wrote it, but did she feel better after she read the letter? Maybe I should have put it that way.
Yes, I think she did. I think she was, you know what? She paid me the greatest compliment a reader can ever pay you. She argued with me. She argued with me.
There you go.
Adam, while we're talking about your work, Marjorie mentioned your latest is the real work on the mystery of mastery. And we don't need to discuss this on the show. I ordered it this morning from Amazon, so I guess I'll get it tomorrow or the next day. One of the reasons I ordered it, beyond the fact that Marjorie and I are both admirers of your work, is I'm told you conquered something that many of us have, which is fear of urinating in public bathrooms. Is this accurate?
I did it indeed. I did indeed, or I'm trying to conquer it, and I'm delighted to talk about it. It's a condition that is kept secret called periuresis.
Exactly.
It has a medical name, and there's even an International Periuresis Association that you can consult. And the reason I wanted to write about it in brief was because it was something that had long plagued me, and turns out to be something that's long plagued people, but because the business of literature, what we're celebrating at the book festival, is in no small part making private life public, making all the things we're embarrassed about or ashamed over or keep hidden, and putting them in sentences and sharing them with the world. And that was my biggest secret, the thing I was most ashamed of. And once I put it into sentences and shared it with the world, I was astonished to find that people weren't embarrassed on my behalf. They were everywhere I've gone with this book. They're relaxed, they're delighted, because they recognize that everybody is struggling with something. And when you confess to what your struggle is, everyone in the room can say, yes, I have one too, and we all share that vulnerability together.
Well, I'm going to join that organization. I hope to see you at their next convention. We asked our colleagues, Deborah, this morning to look up how many people are actually reading books, and I assume the numbers were going to be abysmal. They're not abysmal. 2/3 of Americans say they've read a book in the last year, which to me, I think that's pretty positive, considering how uninformed so many of our fellow citizens are.
I wouldn't have expected it would be that many.
65%.
That's good news.
If you listen to a book, does that count?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Why do you say that?
Yeah.
Well, Adam's going to answer. Adam, why don't you answer the question? Why does it count?
I have done audio. I have done all 11 of my books as audiobooks with me narrating them. This last one, they forced me to do standing up, so I would expand my lungs more. Of course, it counts. The oral experience, and you mentioned Emily Wilson before, and of course, the great Homeric poems were oral experiences. They were heard, not read by their first audiences. So it's a deep part of the experience of literature to hear. And it's a genuine part of it. But, two things are true. One is that reading turned out to be absolutely essential through the pandemic. I cannot tell you, and I'm sure you can tell me, how many people formed book groups, read books that they'd been putting off for years, Proust or Moby Dick, through the pandemic. And the other wonderful news is that all the changes in digitization and so on that have so changed things like the music business have left books in, I won't say unaffected, but have left books in a better shape. You can't disaggregate a book. You can't say, I only want to play the first 3 sentences of Great Expectations. You want the totality of it. And this is, against all odds and against the expectations, this is a very good moment for books in America.
Adam Gopnik, I'm sure you've thought a lot about this. What is the difference, do you think, between reading a book, print in front of you in your hand, and listening to it?
I love to do both. I know the one reason why people listen to books is because they have long commutes.
Yes.
Which I don't as a New Yorker. In fact, there's a chapter in this book about my finally learning to drive.
I know, I love that.
which is true. But I think, the joy of listening to a book is that you've got the writer usually, or some surrogate for the writer, in your ear, in your brain,
yes.
right? Sharing it with you. The joy of reading it, on the other hand, is that you control it. You can turn back 3 pages to reread the section you didn't understand or admired intensely. You can skip ahead if there's a tedious part in Proust, and there are many tedious parts in Proust. You can skip ahead to a livelier part. So both, I think, are essential experiences, and I think they're beautifully entwined in readers' imaginations now.
That's the voice of Adam Gopnik, who is a fabulous writer, but apparently does not do magic tricks, despite what we believed. And Deborah Porter, who's the founder and current head of the Boston Book Festival. Next couple of days, it is free, and the website is bostonbookfest.org. Who comes to this thing? Is it all heavy-duty readers, or are there some casual types who make an appearance too there, Deborah?
Both. I mean, some people find themselves wandering through the square and say, hey, what's going on? And we have this beautiful program guide. You can't see it on the radio, but
Yes, you can see it on the radio, actually, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, so hold it up.
Okay.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I've got a few here for the people in the
Great.
audience. And they
I'll
pick up
take one.
a copy and look at it and decide to go hear a
Can
session.
I tell you something? I'm not as, I wish, I don't mean this with any pride at all. Marjorie is much more significant reader than I am, and I'm
not
sort of
nearly
embarrassed
as much as
that
I
am.
should.
But I have to say, the excitement that I feel when there's a writer who I really admire, when you get to listen to him or her, see him or her, maybe touch their hand, maybe talk, no, I'm serious, maybe talk to them, is so overwhelmingly exciting.
Well, and
I can't
if
tell you.
multiply that times 100 is what it feels like when you go to the Boston Book Festival and you see thousands of people.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes that excitement. It just brings that more into play.
Adam.
That's
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's an excitement that writers can feel about other writers. I remember the first time I ever got to share a stage with the late John Updike. I was as thrilled as though I'd met a Beatle,
Yeah.
So it's something that not only readers share about writers, writers share about other writers. It's a highly emotional business, reading, and suddenly meeting the human being, the woman who puts these sentences together is an astounding experience.
So, before we wrap this up, tell us about the difference that you looked into in the real work between achievement and mastery.
Oh, I think that what I emphasize is between achievement and accomplishment, because accomplishment is kind of my word for mastery in the book. In fact, I'm just going to be publishing a little book on just that theme. And what I try to emphasize is that accomplishment is what really matters. It's all of the inner-directed, self-directed things that we choose to do for ourselves, whether it's learning guitar chords on on a folk guitar to play songs, or it's learning how to box, as I have done in middle age. And those things build the foundation of our sense of confidence. And it's what we give our kids. When our kids pursue accomplishment, they're invariably liberated to become themselves. On the other hand, we have a whole society that depends on achievement, on pressing ourselves and above all our children to pass the next test, to get into the next school, to run the rat maze ever more efficiently. And I think in that choice between accomplishment and achievement, accomplishment is what really matters, and achievement is the false drug.
Adam Gopnik, it's great to talk to you. Hope to see you in person next time. And Deborah, congratulations on your great work through the years, and I hope the weekend's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you both.
You
Pleasure.
and Adam, thank you very much for joining us, Adam
Pleasure
Gopnik.
talking. I'll go back to making sentences.
Okay. We have been speaking with Boston Book Festival founder Deborah Porter and the great author Adam Gopnik, who's got wonderful books of essays, wonderful books on France, wonderful books on so many things. You should check him. If you don't know him, you should check him out. He writes for The New Yorker as well. After a quick pledge break, we'll open the lines to ask you about biking in Boston. You are listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
Okay, so I have good news and bad news here. Karen from Boston was a wonderful donor who says, love Marjorie, like Jim. Elizabeth from Mansfield, we love Marjorie. Okay, obviously they cut that off, but here's the great news, at least from my perspective. It is 1:18, there are 42 minutes left. When the show started, or roughly when the show started, we needed 250 donors by 2 o'clock to get an extra $10,000. We are 33 people away. 33 people at least in 42 minutes, and an extra 10 grand comes to our wonderful colleagues in this wonderful station if you make a donation at 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org.
You know, you're leaving out the people that said nice things about you, Jim.
Who are they?
Karen and Medway. Jim is my favorite radio host. There seems to be a little Marjorie versus Jim
there
here
is a
going
thing.
on.
Yeah, I think so.
And we don't really have to go there, but I will go there nonetheless.
Yeah.
Naomi from Somerville says she's donating for both Jim and Marjorie. Love your show. And then Brian in Charlestown says, Jim, thank heaven for you. So there you go.
Thank you, Brian.
There you go. I mean, it's
very kind of you to read those.
And it's fine. We'll take whatever we can get. We don't care.
We do.
Whoever listens, we love everybody that listens.
33 more people to donate by 2 o'clock.
We got this $10,000 thing hanging in abeyance there. If we make our where we should make by 2 o'clock, which is only we're running out of time here, 40 minutes away. We will get the extra the extra $10,000 because we have a very generous group of GBH members who are offering to donate that extra $10,000 if we get to our goal. We're just 33 people short. So if you haven't given, if you've been hesitating, or maybe if you gave once and you'd like to give again because you are a very generous person, this is the time to do it to help us get toward that $10,000. The number again is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Can I say a couple things here, a totally serious notice? One, the contributions mean everything to us. We can't thank you enough. It means I know I speak for every one of our colleagues, on air, behind the scenes, whatever. Two, these comments that you take the time to give.
I know, makes us feel good.
Really, really, really matters. Don't have to do it. The contribution is what really matters. When you take an extra minute or two to say something kind about why you're giving, it's a great lift. So thank you for both those things. The number again is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. $10 a month or $120 all at once. You get these fabulous earbuds. They're really high quality. It's got an 89.7 GBH logo thing on the outside. They're good, as I say, and you get something really nice, and we in return get $120 that matters a lot to us. And if you make it before 2 o'clock, will go to us getting an extra 10 grand.
And you know, we've heard a lot this Pledge Week because of the tragedy in Israel and the Gaza Strip. People are talking about the world. We have a 3 to 4 every day, the world is just what it says. It's reporting international news, and this is a perfect time, if you haven't tried out The World, to check them out, because they're reporting on the Israel-Gaza Strip crisis. Has been absolutely wonderful. Susan from Andover singled them out this afternoon. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marge Regan live at the library, streaming online at facebook.com/GBH News, youtube.com/GBH News. Speaking of what's going on in the Middle East, on Monday we'll start the show with the Consul General for Israel to New England, and in the 1 o'clock hour we will have Abdallah Fayyad, who is an editorial writer for the Boston Globe and columnist, who I made a mistake before. He grew up in Jerusalem and spent time in Gaza, wrote a really powerful piece yesterday. It's getting a lot of feedback. He will join us in the 1 o'clock hour. So one other note, David Leonard and Paul English, we're talking about banning books with Adam Gopnik and Deborah Foster. David, the head of the library, Paul English, founder of Kayak, first $1 million to the Embrace, they're joining us next week. They're working to make banned books available to people who can't get them in states or communities that have banned them. It's a fabulous effort. They'll join us next week. So the Red Line is facing a partial shutdown this month. What a surprise. The Green Line extension tracks are a mess. They were too narrow. I don't know if they still are. I'm not sure if they fixed it. Slow zones in the Orange Line keep getting slower, and car traffic is some of the worst in decades in the city. But some good news. Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, she teased this on our show the other day, by the way, announced a Blue Bikes discount program for city residents, major discounts if you're eligible. If you haven't been a member in the last 3 years, you get like more than 50% off for your low-income person. It's only $5 a year. But the question on the table for you at 877-301-8970, would that discount get you out from your isolated car, your 2-mile-an-hour rickety subway car, and get behind the handlebars? If not, what would get you on that bike as a commuter, not just as a recreational rider? The number is 877-301-8970. Is it the discount on Blue Bike? Is it more infrastructure? Is it training? What would get you on that bike as an occasional commuter to work? 877-301-8970. How about you, Marjorie?
Well, I'm kind of a chicken about riding a bike. I really still am. But there are more and more bike lanes. I mean, we are making huge strides around Boston with bike lanes. And if I could be segregated from the cars more than I am now, I would do it.
That's everything to me, by the way. Those full segregation things, either with physical barriers or by that thing they do where they have cars park off the curb.
Yes.
So there's a space between the passenger side of the car and the curb, which makes it immensely safe, is great. We have to get electric bikes out of bike lanes. It's like having a motorcycle, like a low-grade motorcycle kind of thing. The Globe editorial page suggested some sort of tax deduction for people who do either public transit or do bike commuting. Only 2% of people in Boston currently commute. The goal, I think, is 8% by 2030. Do you know what percentage of workers in Amsterdam commute every single day?
It's a lot.
2/3.
Yeah, well, they talked about how
67%.
Amsterdam, I guess they had some terrible crashes back in the 70s where a lot of young people were killed, so they decided to kind of rejigger their whole city to be more amenable for bike riding, and it really worked, right? I mean, they shut down. See, that's the other thing. Mayor Wu talks about this a lot, talking about having block parties for Halloween and shutting down sections of streets to car traffic. I mean, that changes everything. And a lot of these European cities, they have done that. They've made the downtown about walking and riding and not about cars. Well, she's still talking about Copley Square. It happened a little bit during COVID, shutting it down, which it seemed to me worked pretty well when they tried it out. The number's 877-301-8970. This question is simple. Is there anything, if you're not a bike commuter, is there anything that would get you to be at least an occasional bike commuter to work? Well, one last thing before you go to the phone calls.
Yeah.
It certainly works when you get when you reimburse people for riding bikes, or you give them bikes that are much less expensive, like the Blue Bike. You don't have to go out and invest in your own bike. You can kind of try it out in the Blue Bike. And when they remember MIT a few years ago, before the pandemic, they decided to subsidize people's T passes and bike riding instead of in the parking garages, and they saw a lot of money transferred from out of the parking garages and into the
What happened
biking.
here? Was it during the Orange Line shutdown when blue bikes were free?
Yep.
And they set an all-time city record 9 days out of the 30 days that it was shut down, because people will do it when it's an affordable.
Well, it's like the buses. When they made the buses, when remember with the buses free,
They are.
Ridership
Several
went
lines
way up. Obviously, it makes a difference. You don't have to pay for it.
So, but tell the truth, and I'll try to tell the truth too. If you had really good infrastructure all the way from your home in Brookline
Yes.
to work, would you do it?
Yes, because it's really it's kind of fun and it's really good exercise.
Yeah.
You know, you wouldn't have to worry.
I'd prefer a Segway myself, but I would take a. You ever ridden a Segway?
No,
They are really
I have never
fun.
ridden a Segway.
Really fun.
But we do have some video
No,
that we should
let's
show
not.
someday of Jim riding a Segway around his offices when he used to work at NECN.
yes.
Shot from below. You can just imagine.
It's
how
a
that
video.
looked.
I was in a movie called America. I think it's 15 miles an hour, maybe 10 miles an hour. And the video they took of me in the newsroom was from below and behind. And you can use your imagination of what was in the video, but sadly it's true. Ian in Cambridge, you're first on Boston Public Radio. Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Excellent.
Love listening to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I was a Cambridge resident recently, and I am a Cambridge resident, and I got into blue biking, and something that really helped me start out was all of the bike lanes in Cambridge.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of agree with Marjorie that if there's like good infrastructure in place, then, you know, it encourages people to get out and bike. So that's how I feel about it.
Well, Ian, a lot of people agree with you. Thank you very much for the call. I've complained, in the spirit of full disclosure, if you haven't listened, about some of the parking positions that were removed to make way for bike lanes, which is sort of controversial in Cambridge. I'm not sure all the right decisions were made. Clearly, overall, they're going in the right direction. I think there has to be a little bit more care in terms of those decisions, but I think Ian is not aberrational. You can clearly see a lot more people in the bike lanes.
There's a great quote about this from State Senator William Brownsberger, who talks about how every single block of every single bikeway is a big fight because of the competing interests, the parking, what businesses want, what residents want, through traffic for buses, through traffic for vehicles. But he talks about the mayor really being aggressive about this, and she certainly has been. But a lot of people, we still have a lot of hostility about bikes. I mean, Joe from Boston says the last thing we need is even more clueless people on bikes in the road. This is going to be horrible. And then the other people don't think it's so horrible, but they're worried about the dangers.
Well, there are dangers. And by the way, we've had this discussion with our transit panel. The same laws apply to cyclists as do to people who ride cars. I know cars are much more dangerous. We got to apply laws. And I told you in Cambridge, actually a couple of weeks ago on Washington Street and I think Beacon, police officers, I don't think they were giving tickets, but they're stopping and giving warnings to cyclists, which I think is a really important thing, because it's not just dangerous for the cyclists when they go through a red light, but dangerous for the driver too. 877-301-8097. You know what the other thing that drives me nuts?
What?
And I know that because they go more slowly than the typical bike, there are very few accidents that are damaging. The fact that there are no helmets on 99% of people who do the blue bikes does concern me. I asked Mayor Wu about this on Tuesday when she was here, the whole helmet on the blue bike thing. Here's what she had to say.
Today, we're still in a place that we don't have fully separated infrastructure all along the roads and not all along where some of the blue bike stations are, although we are working very quickly to try to remedy that. So I do encourage everyone to wear a helmet and to do so. Look and see if you can route where you're trying to get to based on some of the safe infrastructure that has been built out, because we have made a lot of progress, and Google Maps generally does a pretty good job of knowing where the built-out infrastructure is and directing people that way.
Hello, Marjorie.
We are taking a quick break,
We
and
are.
then we're going to be right back. Pledge break. We're talking about bikes in Boston. The number is 877-301-8970 if you want to call or text us. You are listening to Boston Public Radio, live from the Boston Public Library. Listen to this from Dean from Dudley. Love Boston Public Radio. I feel like Jim and Marjorie are my close friends, even though we never met. My family just made 3 separate donations because we know how badly Marjorie wants to win, and Marjorie does really want to win. We only have to get 12 more people between now and 2 p.m. We'll get those $10,000 people. But the reason I wanted to read what Dean from Dudley said is that is unique to radio. I think it's different. I was a newspaper person for years. You don't have that sense of...
Oh, there's an intimacy.
Yeah, there's an intimacy to radio, which you don't get in newspapers, so you don't get it on television either. You get it on the radio because you do. I mean, we spend so much time talking. You feel like you do know somebody, and I think that's what's wonderful about radio. And
here's
unique.
I'm sorry. I thought
go ahead. Read
no,
the
it's an anonymous text. I'm calling with a donation right after I write this. I love you both. I think the combination of you two is more than the sum of the two of you, and Jared is wonderful too. So there you go. Thank you very much.
I don't understand what that means. The combination is more than
it's more than the sum of the parts, meaning it's not just 1 + 1.
Oh, okay.
It's 1 + 1 isn't equal 2, it equals 3.
Okay, I got it now.
Fine.
I got it now. Anyway, we have 12 people yet to go to meet this challenge by 2 p.m. We only have a half hour left in the show. So if you've not given before, if you like what you hear, not just in this show, but in all the great programming we have all week and all weekend, including we just, Brian O'Donovan's wonderful Celtic Sojourn. There's going to be a special tribute to him this Saturday when his show begins at 3 o'clock. It goes from 3 to 6, and Brian's show has just been spectacular for so many years, for so many people. Anyway,
and you've supported it all these years. That's the whole point of this.
Yes, well, that's right. I mean, you support all these shows that you like, whether it's us, whether it's The World, whether it's Paris and Jeremy in the morning, whether it's Run in the afternoon, whether it's whatever you listen to in the weekends. This costs money, so we appreciate what you can give. As we said a million times, 70% of our money comes from the generosity of listeners like you. So we've got the 10 grand hanging till 2 o'clock. Do we meet our pledge? We got 12 more people to go.
What's
the
the number
again? 888-897-9424. gbhnews.org.
And I always, the gifts, almost all of them are great. I'm not crazy about some of them, to tell the truth. This is a good one today. But if you're giving solely to get the earbuds, then I don't think you quite get it. Hopefully you're giving because you care about what you hear on the station, and it's a great add-on that you get this great gift, which are the fabulous 89.7 GBH earbuds. But hopefully you're giving because you really respect what our colleagues and hopefully we do. And if you do, it's 888-897-94. Let me say it again. 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're at the Boston Public Library, and we're talking about, this is off the announcement, Mayor Wu. She hinted at it on our show on Tuesday, but she announced, I think it was yesterday, this big, huge discount program for Boston people under certain conditions. The $129 a year for blue bikes, if you haven't had a membership in 3 years, goes down to $60. If you qualify as low income, it goes down to $5 a year. She hopes that it's going to spur a lot more ridership. The Boston Globe editorial said infrastructure is not enough. They talk about blue bike expansion. Tax deductions would be a good idea. Training for people who don't know how to ride a bike would be a good idea. This electric bike thing, by the way, this drives me out of my mind. I mean, they are, even if they only go 15, 20 miles an hour, it's like a slow-speed motorcycle.
Yeah.
Nicole, our colleague, looked up.
They don't like you saying that, Jim.
Well, I don't care what they say. Well, then they can give us a buzz. The bottom line is the state law allows it, but individual jurisdictions, like a city, can ban it. For example, Nicole told us the Esplanade. You can't do it on the Esplanade. Are you okay with an e-bike being in a bike lane?
I'm not even sure what an e-bike is.
It's an electrified bike that goes faster than you do.
Here's what I know.
It's dangerous.
It is odd what gets people going.
In the bike lane?
No, in general.
I'm saying it's dangerous in the bike lane.
We talked about loading dishwashers last week.
Yeah,
whether
that was a huge issue.
Huge. Mm-hmm. Bicycles are huge. People are passionate about this on both sides. Listen to this. Oh man, the way people in Massachusetts drive, I'm way too afraid to bike anywhere. Roller skating would be safer for me. Here's Jill in Arlington. I walked 2 miles to the eye doctor in Cambridge, 2 miles home to Arlington this morning. Number of times I was nearly hit by bikes on the sidewalk is 4. According to Jill, no, I'm not getting on a bike. Drivers don't like bicyclists. Apparently a lot of walkers don't like them either. But on the other hand, we have people that are absolutely passionate about bikes, except that they don't think that they are separated enough from the cars.
Okay, let's go to Scott in South Boston. Hey, Scott, thanks for your patience. Welcome.
Hi, I am such a huge fan of the show. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you, Scott.
I do think I do think that Mayor Wu's program is great for improving accessibility, but as an actual solution to the issue of mass transport of people throughout the city, it just misses the spot because we live in New England and it's raining, sleeting, too windy, too whatever, 95% of the year. Half the year it's too cold. There's snow on the ground. They take the blue bikes away. And so it just, the idea that this is going to solve the traffic issues that we have in the city is a little bit naive.
Well, Scott, if I may say, I don't. If Mayor Wu was here, I think she would say our goal is not to solve it. It's part of the solution. Their goal for 2030, I believe, is to go from 2% commuting in Boston by bike to 8%, which is obviously not a solution. And if it only works 6 months a year, what's wrong with that? 6 months a year, you do your bike, and 6 months a year, if the T ever gets fixed, that's a big if, you ride public transit, right?
I think my other critique of the approach here is that if you've ever used these blue bikes before, there's just not enough of them, and the actual volume of people to get to 8% ridership means that it's going to be so inconvenient to actually get the bike that it's very, very difficult to actually achieve that goal. It's a one-to-one sort of transport issue.
Well, you were right. I drive by many of the docks that are totally empty during the day, and I'm assuming, I didn't hear Mayor Wu's press conference yesterday, nor did we ask her about that supply issue on Tuesday. We will in the future. I'm assuming part of the plan, even though I don't know, is to expand the number of bikes. Scott, thanks for your nice words and thanks for your call. We appreciate it. 877-301-8970 is the number. You know what we should have in the state? What? For example, Mayor Wu, Governor Healy appointed the first climate czar. I don't know if she's called climate czar, whatever she is, the climate person to oversee everything. Why don't we have a bike I know we have a streets person in Boston who gets very good reviews. Why don't we have a bike person? If that's one of the goals, to deal with climate issues and a whole variety of health issues, why don't we have one point person to deal with this?
I mean, next time she comes in, you can ask her if we can have a bike czar.
I will ask her.
But I tell you, there's huge amount of
animus.
Yes, about bicycles.
Well, by the way, some of the stuff in Cambridge, I'm telling you, and it's not just, I know what people are saying who've been listening to the show. I'm upset because I went to buy my own birthday cake on my last birthday, and I couldn't park close enough to Flower to be able to get it. That happens to be true.
Listen to
But
this.
I've sort of grown up since then. But the problem, especially if you're an old person who has trouble with mobility, when you don't have a parking spot within like a third of a mile of a business, you're screwed and the business is screwed, no?
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely right.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you guys got it all wrong about bikes and lane now open next to curbs is a disaster. Bikers go through lights and ride on the sidewalk, particularly dangerous at crosswalks where cars stop to let pedestrians cross, but bikers don't stop. You do see bikers sometimes stopping for red lights, not all the time stopping for
they should,
for
by the
red
way.
lights. And listen to this. I want to say I commute daily by bike in Boston, definitely appreciate the improving infrastructure, but I think for people to buy into biking more, you need to put more emphasis on lives that can be saved by reducing driving and biking. Just read a study that if the United States biked at similar rates as the Dutch, 125,000 lives would be saved a year avoiding bicycles.
Yeah, but we're not going to if we did, we're not going to 2/3 of our people riding bikes to work, are we?
Well, that's just the Dutch in general. It's not just Amsterdam. It's all around the country, I would say. I think certainly it would be safer if people were riding bikes are slower, and you'd like to think everybody's wearing a helmet.
Okay, so wait a second. So Zoe just sent us a story from one of our colleagues, Tori Bedford, a story of hers. Vivian Ortiz is Boston's first bicycle mayor. Whoops.
Gosh.
One of just five in the, I guess I missed that. Sorry,
me
Vivian.
Too.
One of just 5 in the United States and more than 100 in the world is named by Amsterdam-based biking advocacy organization BYCS. Vivian Ortiz is the bicycle mayor
and Tori
of Boston?
Bedford did the story. She used to be one of our producers.
What does that mean, that she's the bicycle mayor?
I don't know what it means,
Okay,
but
good.
it means she's in charge of bikes, I guess.
Okay.
That's kind of her job. Clinton in Somerville, thank you for calling.
Bicycle mayor. Hi, Clinton. Clinton,
Are you
say
there?
something.
Your first time caller?
Oh,
Hello?
great.
Oh, thank you.
Hi.
What do you think?
Hi. This is. I would say that I personally ride a lot more if there was better infrastructure for bikes, because I live in Mattapan and the bike lane near my house is just a strip of paint, and there's people flying by at like 30 or 40 miles an hour, and I don't feel comfortable doing that.
Well, by the way, I think if you live in Mattapan, I don't know if you heard Mayor Wu the other day, she agrees with you. I think she believes that segregated lanes, or I guess she calls it fully separated infrastructure, is the key to safety and the key to confidence. So if Mattapan had that fully separated infrastructure, you'd be doing it.
Yeah, more likely than not.
Yeah, well, I think that's the number one most important thing. Clinton, thanks for your first call. Do another one soon, please.
Texter points out that a lot of cars don't stop for red lights either, and that is true.
I have to say, I don't want to get in trouble with our friend from our little panel on transportation once a month. It's not even close. She is right that cars, obviously weighing thousands of pounds, are far more dangerous than a cyclist going through a red light. It's not even close. The number of drivers who go through red lights, and some do, and it's grotesque, is not even close to the number of cyclists who don't even slow down when they get to a red light. What are you laughing about?
Joshua in Boston says, those of us biking through red lights are just trying to get out of the way so Marjorie can drive in the bike and bus.
Well, I forgot about that, by the way.
Okay, I have to defend myself here. I must admit, I do drive in the bus lane, particularly on Huntington Avenue, because you can't see a bus
coming. How can you defend that?
Well, it's the bus lane. I don't drive.
I know what it is.
I don't drive in the bike lane.
Yeah, well, I've seen you drive in the bike lane.
What are you talking about?
Well, you know why I said that? Because many years ago, you kept saying I parked in the fire lane. At the Star Market in Dorchester, when we used to work in Dorchester. That wasn't true, and you said it anyway, so I'll say you drive in the bike lane.
Okay, I don't drive in the bike lane, except if it's like a bad storm.
So you do drive in the bike lane?
Well, I've done that in the wintertime when nobody's out. But the bus lane is different. I'm sorry, Joshua, I suppose I shouldn't be driving in the bus lane, but you can see there's no bus coming for ages, and it's kind of crazy when the traffic is really bad there. I mean, Huntington Avenue, let's face it, you got the T in the middle.
I know what you have.
You got the one lane for
cars. It's a narrow road.
And you got the bus lane.
Got the bus lane.
I mean, it's a mess.
Okay, we got to take a break.
Oh, okay. We've got to take a break. We're talking about...
You understand the clock thing?
I know.
What it means here?
Well, it's in a different place from the library, and I get confused.
I get all confused.
Okay, the point is...
What is the point?
We have one more pledge break, maybe two more pledge breaks before 2 o'clock, when we have the challenge to get the $10,000. So anyway, we're right back telling you why we need that $10,000. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting from the Boston Public Library.
Now, Marjorie, can I give you a little advice?
Yes.
Our colleagues told us that we met the 250-person challenge. I would suggest you not tell anybody because, thank you,
That's
but we're not telling anybody because if we told people, they might say, well, we don't have to give. So ignore what I just said.
Well,
we are still attempting, in quotes, to meet our 250-person challenge so we get the $10,000. Can we go with that?
Here's what I have to say, Jim.
What is it?
I'm very happy. You'll be back on Monday.
I will, thank you. And by the way, in all seriousness, thank you for helping us meet the challenge.
Thank you very, very much.
So let's focus on the earbuds, by the way. And by the way, I'm sure you did that for Marjorie, not just for GVH. She is thrilled. She has the biggest smile. She's out all day. For $10 a month, $120 all at once. Well, thank you. With these great 89.7 GBH hi-fi stereo earbuds. They're only available today. They have the great GBH logo. I like stuff with the GBH logo. I like that kind of thing. And you get them for $10 a month, $120 all at once. If you call 888-897-9424 or go to gbhnews.org. Some good comments. You got them?
Yeah, Sally from Rosendale says, I wish I could afford more, but I'm so grateful for Jim and Marjorie and the late, great Brian O'Donovan.
I love that you said that,
Here,
Sally.
Sally, we're with you there. David from South Glastonbury loves to donate during Jim and Marjorie. They make the Donors Day. And listen to this from Erica in Washington, D.C. I moved away from Boston 2 years ago, but every Friday I tune in from my smart speaker and get a little less homesick. Isn't that nice?
Well, read more. What does she say?
Love hearing Jim and Marjorie talk to locals about everything from beer to theater to politics and ethics.
See what Mark said from Milton?
I did.
What did he say?
He said something very nice about me.
Marjorie is awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Mark from Milton. I appreciate that.
Mark is banned.
Okay, so here's the deal. We have reached our goal, and we're very, very grateful for people for donating so that we could reach the goal. A bunch of generous owners gave us an extra $10,000 if we got to 250 people donating before 2, and we did.
We
so
did.
We're very happy. But if you want to give us more, no, keep going. If you want to give us more, you want to get the earbuds, they're $10 a month, right? Mm-hmm. So here's the number again and the website again. It's 888 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. We're very, very grateful for people that gave, and we're very, very grateful to people that take the time to put these little comments in after they give, because it makes us feel really good.
So, Mark from Milton, when you say Marjorie is awesome, what is your point exactly? Let's accept that Marjorie is relatively awesome.
No, they
and
realize
what's the end of your
that
thought?
Marjorie needs some propping up from time to time, you know.
Marjorie is awesome.
So I love that, because I do need some propping up from time to time. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. Off Mayor Wu's announcement yesterday that there are discounts for Boston residents under certain conditions. Some decent 50% discount for average people who haven't had a contract with Blue Bike for 3 years. And if you're a low-income person in Massachusetts, in Boston, $5 a year, which is really fabulous, quite an incentive. But I think the consensus is we need, and she agrees, better fully separated infrastructure to have people's confidence build, etc. Let's go to Kevin in Dorchester. Hey, what would it take for you to drive to work? Hi, Kevin.
Hey there. So
Hi.
I actually just switched over to, no, I'm not on the radio. So I just switched over to using a Blue Bike, and I live in Dorchester, and I think that overall the network is pretty good. And I think if people would just give it an opportunity, they would realize what's out there and how much easier it is. It's better for you. And it really, it's a great start to the day, and it's a great finish to the day.
What do you mean pretty good? When you say the Blue Bike infrastructure is pretty good, what's the hole in it?
Well, I mean, I think that I think Mayor Wu has done a lot in terms of separating bikes from the cars, but I definitely think on Dot Ave, you're right with the traffic. I definitely think you need a segregated bike lane, and I think that the solution really is the cars separating you between the traffic and the bikes.
Yeah.
That way, drivers who are opening their driver's hand side door, they're not going to clip you. I don't know. I think that's sort of the game changer.
I'm with you. I think that's a huge, and I would say more affordable. You don't have to build a physical infrastructure for it. You just move people out, draw some lines, move them away from the curb. Kevin, thank you for the call. We appreciate it.
One of the texters wants blue scooters. We have blue bikes. Why not blue scooters, Jim?
Yeah, I'd be good on those, I think.
I think
that
so.
Really
well,
worked out well for me.
You do see a lot of kids really flying by on these scooters. Let's go to Alex in Roxbury. in Roxbury. Hi,
hey, Alex. What's going on?
Hi. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
for calling.
I wanted to, I'm a big biker. I bike to get around everywhere. I'm actually a transportation engineer, so I do I do a lot of road design, and actually we'll do some signal timing. So I wanted to correct, I heard some misconceptions about biking.
Yep.
For example, the data we have doesn't show that cyclists break laws more often than drivers. It's about the same from a study from Portland State University. And also, bikes are actually very good for business. People on bikes tend to spend more money. They tend to pass by, see a store, and actually stop. Whereas when you're driving, you don't notice it's on the side of the road because you're looking ahead and you're traveling a lot faster.
Alec, let me ask you.
Bikes can actually be very good for business.
By the way, I was the one who was, and it was purely based on random observation, so I respect your data as opposed to just my eyeball thing about that you described a minute ago. Well, it may be better for businesses, younger cyclists. How about older people who can't do the cycling thing and are not mobile enough to walk the 100 yards from the distant parking meter that it takes to get to the store? I mean, there are a lot of such people, no?
No, that's true. And actually, the city of Cambridge is great with this. I think, honestly, the whole Boston area, when the cities install this bike infrastructure, they have a whole disabilities commission, and they make sure that they don't get rid of any accessible spaces. And in fact, they tend to add one or two accessible spaces along corridors where they're adding protected bike lanes. So they make sure that they have that accessible parking available. And I'd also say that, for drivers in general, whether it be somebody who needs to because of a mobility impairment or just somebody who chooses to drive because they're coming from a longer distance, whatever it is, it makes it a lot easier to get places, right? It alleviates traffic if we get more people biking as well. So, I think it's really a win-win.
Well, you know what I'm going to do, Alec, because you really obviously know what you're talking about. When I go home today to Cambridge, I'm going to check to see if there are those accessibility spots, because I have not seen them, and maybe because I'm aggravated, I'm blind to them, but I will check it out. And we really thank you for sharing your information with us, Alec. Thank you very much for the call. Thanks.
You know, there are laws. John from Beverly is a mailman, says that all bikes should be required to have a horn. I would think they would have horns, but I don't think so. I don't know. But he's talking about how he's come very close to hitting them when he's in his truck. And obviously that would be terrible to hit somebody when you're in a truck. Jim,
see that clock?
The show's over?
Show's over.
Oh, okay. We're over a little bit early today because of the pledge.
Pledge, yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to thank people again who took the time to contribute. It really means a lot to us.
Huge.
That we got that $10,000 match, and it means a lot that we got it during our show. So we are done for today. Thank you very much for tuning in to Boston Public Radio. Thank you for people that came down to the library. I want to point out that you can keep up with us 24/7. We have our podcast. On Monday, we're going to speak with the General Counsel for Israel to New England about the tragedy unfolding in the Middle East. We're going to GBH News analyst Charlie Sennett will be with us as well, and U.S. General Greg F. Martin on his new book, Bipolar General, My Forever War with Mental Illness.
And Abdallah Fayyad will be with us in the last hour, who wrote a piece about the situation in Gaza in the Boston Globe yesterday.
Yeah, it's an excellent piece.
Oh, very important. The final cut of In the Whale, we had David Abel who made it, and the fabulous lobsterman who was in the mouth of the whale a couple of months ago, premieres this Saturday night at the Music Hall as part of the New Hampshire Film Festival. For tickets and other screenings of the film, go to inthewhalefilm.com/screenings. It is spectacular. inthewhalefilm.com/screenings.
And another programming note we've been reminding you all day, but we'll remind you again tomorrow at 3 o'clock. There's going to be a tribute to the late, great Brian O'Donovan, Celtic Sojourn creator. That's going to be at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. We want to thank our crew, Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, additional support from Ethan Kotler. Our engineer is John the Claw Parker. Our executive producer is Jamie Bologna. Special thanks to the BPL team, Brad Lewis, Matthew Glover, Maddie Geyer, Sai Patel, and Sandra Lopez Burke. I'm Marjorie Egan.
I'm Jim Brady.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you very much for your support of GBH. We really, really appreciate it. Hope you have a great weekend. Hope you can tune in on Monday.
It is the fall membership drive here on GBH, and we're here asking you to take a few minutes right now, invest in your future GBH listening. As a nonprofit public service, we do count on listener donations for the most important part of our income. So your gift really is that important. You don't have to give a lot to make a difference. Maybe just $10 or $15 a month really makes a difference. So please give online at gbhnews.org or call us at 888-897-9424. Good afternoon. I'm Mark Cohen. I'm here with Jack Callahan.
And you support GBH at just $10 a month, and that within the next 7 minutes, we'll thank you with our truly wireless hi-fi earbuds. Only available until 2 o'clock. They've been very popular today for a very good reason. They are our best-sounding earbuds that we've ever offered. The battery life is amazing. They work with your phone, tablet, or Bluetooth-enabled device. The charging case is actually the storage case. So you put them in the storage case, and then you plug them in to, and they'll charge right up and be ready to go when you want them. 888-897-9424. Let me say that again. 888-897-9424 or online at gbhnews.org.
And today we're asking you to join GBH by giving what fits your budget. Your financial commitment here to GBH sends a really powerful message about the value you get from listening to the variety of programs that we feature here on GBH. And your contribution today, joined with others, will ensure that we can continue to bring you the NPR and GBH news that you trust. So please join with others by participating and give as generously as you can right now. You can do so by calling us at 888-897-9424 or go online securely. Look for the donate button when you find us at gbhnews.org.
James from North Falmouth made his contribution, says, I'm addicted to Jim and Marjorie. Now, we don't usually encourage people to support their addiction, but in this case, we'll make an exception. Thank you, James. I want to thank Clinton from Mattapan for doing his part, too. Thomas from Westport loves listening to Jim and Marjorie. If you love listening to Jim and Marjorie, please do your part right now. 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. We're as frugal with our member dollars as we can be, but it does cost money to bring BPR to people. That's why we're asking for your help. 888 897-9424 or online at gbhnews.org.
And just a reminder, your chance to pick up our GBH 89.7 Hi-Fi wireless earbuds ends in about 5 minutes. It's a special offer this Friday afternoon that we're making available to you until 2 o'clock, just $10 a month on our Sustainer plan or a one-time gift of $120. Many people taking advantage of that $10 a month sustaining level, and these earbuds are super comfortable. They're Bluetooth enabled. They'll work with any device, your tablet, your phone, your laptop, any Bluetooth enabled device. They're really comfortable and they sound great. Even Jim loves them, so that's an endorsement right there. Again, $10 a month or $120. This offer goes away in about 5 minutes, so take advantage of this $10 a month offer, or if you prefer, give a one-time gift of $120. Our earbuds are yours when you call at 888-897-9424 or check them out online, gbhnews.org.
Even Jim loves them. That's high praise coming right there. It's so easy to become a sustaining member here. We need your contact information, the amount that you would like to give each month. Many people start off with $10 a month. It can be $5 or $7.50, whatever works for you. And that'll come directly each month from your credit card or your bank account. Or make a one-time gift. Takes just a few minutes to do on the phone, or you can do it yourself online. But please participate. Call 888-897-9424 or do it online at gbhnews.org.
Yeah, and participation really the name of the game with these fundraising drives. And you could set up your membership to GBH very similar to the way you pay for other bills. Here's the best part, though. We're not going to tell you how much to give. That's on you. You decide that. Maybe start out with $10 or $15 a month. That monthly amount, it's deducted from your bank account or your credit card, and it really just takes a few minutes to set up. And when you do, we'll keep you informed and entertained for as long as you like for a whole lot less than some of those other bills I know you have to pay. 888-897-9424 or go online securely over at gbhnews.org.
Okay, there's just a few minutes left to take advantage of today's really special offer, and I'll add a very popular offer. That's no surprise for us here. It's the truly wireless GBH earbuds. Has the logo on there. They come with a small carrying case, no wires anywhere, and when they're charged up and ready to go, you pair them up one time with your smartphone or your tablet, any Bluetooth-enabled device, and they'll automatically remember that for the next time out. Pop them in, on they go, and you are connected. When you're finished, put them back in the case, charge them up right in that case. $10 a month as a sustaining member or a one-time gift of $120. Just about 3 minutes left to go, but if you get the call started or the online contribution started, you don't have to get it finished. You just have to get it started. We'll save a pair of earbuds for you. 888-897-9424 or online at gbhnews.org.
Want to send a thanks out to Maureen, our newest member to the GBH family. Thank you so much, Maureen in West Harwich, writing to us that 11 to 2 is my favorite time of day. That's when I get to listen to Jim and Marjorie. Thanks. Maureen, thank you so much for becoming a member, taking that first step, being a listener contributor. We appreciate that so much. Also want to say thanks to Bronislaw in Sudbury for your generous contribution today. Thanks to everyone who's been joining us this afternoon. If we haven't heard from you yet, please just take a couple of minutes right now. Give what your budget allows. So important to support the news and entertainment that you rely on here on GBH 89.7. 888-897-9424 or go online, gbhnews.org.
And I just want to add my thanks, too, for everyone who helped meet that challenge. The 250 contributions earned that extra $10,000 from a generous group of GBH members who put this special fund together to encourage you to call. One last time here before we end fundraising for the day, 888-897-9424 is the number to call. One more time, 888-897-9424 or safe and securely online at gbhnews.org. And huge thanks to our awesome members.